Hey, Barry.
Hey, Sam.
Oh, curious? My
What?
speakers are not working
Oh, you
again.
don't hear me?
Let's see, speakers. Ah, audio, speakers, same as system, built-in Z. Here we go. All right, testing, testing. Can I hear you now?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Much better, much better, much better.
Hi, Eric.
Hello, everybody.
Eric, good to see
Yeah,
you.
good to see you all. Yep.
We have a topic that seems to have been catching Kayla's and Barry's interest that we suggested yesterday.
Okay.
If you have any, let's lay them on the table.
Well, I put some in my workflowy. If we want to get to that.
Actually, I still owe you a bunch of items. I'm going to contact you one-on-one right after this session.
Yeah, that's fine.
I did get a start on the CCC that I said I was going to write you, and then I got COVID this past week.
Oh my, getting better now or
I'm on the mend. There's several
yeah.
days that was bad, but one of the
Yep.
things that COVID really does to me is brain fog.
Oh yeah.
That's had a lot of deleterious effects.
Or is that from the medication or from the COVID thing?
I didn't take any medication. It was all
Oh,
from
okay.
COVID.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had that too.
I think this is the third time I've had it, and this is the worst.
No.
Yeah. So anyway, the topic that got put on the table yesterday was one of about 4 or 5 that I gathered from my notes that I put on the table yesterday, since we had a few minutes to discuss. And Barry says having some notion of what we're going to talk about allows him to think about it beforehand so that it's
Yep.
not just extemporaneous speaking.
Okay.
So normally I don't do that, but this time I said, oh, let's see if this changes. So anyway, the topic was when, if, and how is unsolicited criticism appropriate?
Good one.
We hear all of this common wisdom. Oh, I'm not judging, etc. Right? I'm not this. I'm not that. You do what you want. And yet, I feel internally that's not true. People are judging and discriminating all the time. Now, whether or not they verbalize it, whether or not they choose to be constructive about it, is something different. So that topic seemed to be of interest to Barry and Kayla. So that's how I presented it. Barry, how would you like to characterize it if I missed any aspect of it?
You know, it's interesting. This morning, I was trying to recall what it was that you put on the table. And for the life of me, I couldn't recall it this morning.
Does this ring a bell?
Oh yeah, now as soon as you said it, I recalled it, but I couldn't bring it forward from
You
memory.
don't have COVID, do you, Barry?
No, but I have senioritis.
Yes. Do you need a second brain, an electronic brain to remember all these
I
things?
need to take notes.
Always in search of a second brain.
When I was a student, I took notes because I didn't trust my memory, but
Yep.
Yes.
I don't bother to take notes, and I should know better by now.
Anyway,
Question is, where do you take your notes these days? Electronically or in a notebook? I still have like a Moleskine notebook.
Unfortunately, no, but I have an odd anomaly on Zoom this morning. I can't move anything around. I can't move the chat. Oh, now it's working. Well, part of it's working. But I can't move the videos around. Well, okay, never mind. There's something weird going on with
Yeah, just a comment about note taking. I find that I need to carry paper around, and I also have a digital recorder for audio recording of my thoughts, but it eventually has to get put somewhere else. So like I could take a picture of something in a book or something. So like I try to do like a Memex where I try to collect audio thoughts, paper thoughts, and eventually get it all digitized. And then eventually I can go through and organize them later, but I want to capture it all.
It's the basics of idea processing,
Yep.
where if we understand that, then that's the basis for any possible improvement in collaboration,
Right.
which is foundational to collaborology
Yep.
and one of Doug Engelbart's original thoughts, by the way.
Okay. So now I have to look at the question again to see, what do you say? What if, how is unsolicited criticism appropriate? You see how fast I forget, you know?
Welcome to the club.
Yeah, I'm going to be 55 next year. So
No.
is that the hill?
I don't
Okay.
actually know when it started for me. I forget when it started.
Yeah. Okay, now I'm thinking about that question, and the age of the person becomes a factor. So like say it's a kid, you would definitely give unsolicited criticism if it's your kid or some kid in a school or a bully or whatever. But if it's if there's an authority relationship, then it's appropriate. A teacher.
Definitely
Yep.
context dependent. You're saying context dependent. I agree.
Yeah, right. The question is, okay, so when do
So
you
what
become an
context?
adult? Okay, so like, are you an adult after your bar mitzvah when you're 13? I don't think so.
When you get elected president and you tell people to drink bleach.
Oh, yeah.
That's actually a good thing. You know, we're talking about dimensions of consideration. I'll throw in another one: safety / risk management, risk mitigation.
Yeah,
Yep.
if somebody's going to do something that's dangerous, if you sense imminent danger, I think then it's clearly appropriate. If it's inconsequential, it may not be worth it to bother with direct criticism, although indirect criticism, which is not criticism, but simply saying something without directing it as a correction. Because you can say something that will straighten something out without making it a direct criticism of the prompt.
Another aspect
I think that's what tact is about.
There are
Tact
ways.
is being able to set the record straight without, quote, setting the record straight.
But I think it also requires some intuition from the criticizer of that person, who is this person and what makes them tick, to determine the right level of criticism.
Or if it's just the audience, because I can recall in grammar school when the teacher sort of robotically reciting the day's lesson would say something wrong, just, not. And what I used to do in grammar school is I would ask a question as if I was confused.
Okay.
But I wasn't confused. I knew that they said it wrong, but I would ask a question as if I were confused, which allowed the teacher to realize that they said something wrong and correct themselves. I could get away with that in grammar school. By the time I was in high school, I couldn't get away with that technique. It was too obvious.
That's unique for a grammar school kid to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't even explain how I had the insight to do that, but I do recall pretending to be confused or misunderstanding or something, and the teacher would correct what they had said. And that was because I didn't want my peer students, my classmates, to be miseducated.
I'll throw in two more factors. One, is there a common goal we're trying to achieve, or are we just having a cup of coffee, or are we just meeting in the park? Or do we have a project?
Yeah, clearly, if you're working on a project, you don't want the project to go off the rails.
Right. So that's one dimension.
If it's inconsequential, sometimes you say it's not worth it. Just let it go by. It'll get corrected in the future. It's not necessary to fix it now.
It really depends on the dynamics of the group. Just as an example, I was watching some of Frode's videos with his team, and they're trying to do an augmented reality project. And he actually pointed out when someone was going off the rails a bit. And he said he was very nice about it, but he just pointed it out in the group. Yeah. And then they was able to redirect the focus.
But it also gets back to asking a question as opposed to making a statement for the function of sorting something out. And asking a question is always a little more tactful,
Oh, yeah.
asserting a contrary position.
Right, but people are coming from different places and some would not do that. They may just blurt it out based on their cultural upbringing or whatever is influencing their mind, or if they feel they're not getting heard.
And using
Yeah,
humor.
yeah, that's great if you can.
If you can turn it into a kind of make a humorous
I've tried
approach,
that.
it's
doesn't,
better.
it doesn't always work depending on the audience. And at work, doesn't always work.
And you never really know if it's going to work and be tactful and genteel and socially acceptable or not.
Yeah, and that is a problem I have because not understanding my audience, my mind will think of the funny things, but I gotta hold back a bit. Based on the audience, I have to make my own judgment.
But things like, say what? Like you didn't quite get it or something.
But
right?
I also find myself doing that in YouTube chats, that I have learned to hold back on just dumping all my thoughts in chat.
Yeah.
And I've seen instances where people get confused by what I chatted, and or they think I'm serious, or that. So I really got to pay attention to
There's
these
no
things.
tone of voice in
Yeah,
text.
right. Yeah, the emojis are poor substitute.
And I don't even know if YouTube comments support emojis, except the old-fashioned ones.
Oh, they do. Yeah, yeah. People put them all over the place, and I can't understand the emojis. So
you have to learn the whole language of emojis. I remember when they first became available in old-fashioned text, and the obvious ones are easy, but after a while you go, I don't get that emoji. How do I parse that one? So I'll sideways.
Yeah, and YouTube has graphical emojis which substitute for the old ones with text. So I can't really figure out what the graphics are unless there's a hover tip or something. Yeah.
And I never use them enough. I'm much more likely to make a verbal comment as opposed to use a
right. But you see, that's a language barrier between us and very young generations.
Exactly. They're just not used to using the emojis.
Yeah, so I can't respond in an emotional way to someone who's texting an emoji to me or whatever. Yeah, go ahead, Sam.
And even here on Zoom, you learn to sort of make facial expressions, which I hardly ever practice making, facial expression reactions. But now I do it much more often on Zoom.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because for the longest time, you didn't have that affordance. So you never really developed that. Okay.
So I'm noticing something in myself here.
What's that?
I'm noticing there's a lot of banter, but I'm not sure that we're actually with any focus targeted on the question.
Well, we're sort of putting bounds around when it's definitely in and when it's definitely out, but we're nowhere near a sharp boundary.
Right, but I think we need time to get to that point. We needed to see where we are initially. Now, if we could focus, if you could give us a prompt to help us focus.
Okay, so that last comment from me, was that an unsolicited criticism?
Your facial expression or
No.
what?
No, the comment.
What was the comment?
We're not getting to the point yet.
Okay, we're not getting to the point.
I think it's just an expression of impatience. But I didn't take it so much as a criticism, an expression of impatience.
And I think it's useful feedback.
Yeah.
So along the spectrum, there's criticism, but then there's suggestion, and then there's observation, and then there's feeling. You can sort of look at a spectrum.
Yeah.
And if I'm just expressing a feeling versus a thought versus a suggestion versus a recommendation versus a criticism versus a demand, there's a spectrum there, right? So when I use the word unsolicited, the phrase unsolicited criticism, there's kind of an implied suggestion that we talk about this spectrum and what's appropriate and what's useful.
I'm trying to remember the name of the person on Facebook. Is it Jeffrey Rubin? Who's the guy who has From Insults to Respect as his practice?
Well, while you search for that, I'd like to comment while I can still remember it. So you're saying there's a spectrum. Now, the situation we're in right now, it's a transactional type of communication versus interaction. Now, if we had, like, say, written a paper and then you took the time in your own time to go through and mark it up with, okay, this is that, this is that, this is that. So the question is, how is the recipient going to react to a red pen mark, or are they going to, yeah, so this is your understanding, and it's helping the person clarify, okay, this wasn't explained properly. So there's a different process when there's indirect interaction.
And then there's the interaction that says, I believe, I'm following up on your idea, Eric. I believe that my understanding of what's happening here is partial, so I need to fill in the holes in my own model of what's going on. Versus, oh, I believe there's something that you missed, and I'm trying to plug that hole in my mental model of what's going on in your mental model.
Right.
And so that's a little bit more invasive. The more private one, which Barry was saying, is asking questions as if I didn't understand, okay, doesn't put the other person on the defensive. But says, hey,
Yeah,
Barry,
don't put them on the spot.
understand what I just said before, so here's what I'm going to do to pound it into you. Okay, so that's a bit more invasive.
Okay, in your deep grokking group, Jeffrey Rubin is a member.
Yes.
And he has posted in that group more than once.
Many times.
And he has his website called From Insults to Respect. So I would say he's the most accessible expert on this topic of how to engage people without insulting them or disrespecting them. And so that would be my go-to source, because he posts items on his website, well, at least once or twice a month.
Yeah.
And he always puts an announcement on his own page on Facebook and other places where it's relevant. So there's my go-to expert on the topic.
So are we implying, by the last 15 minutes or so, are we implying that there are conditions and situations where unsolicited criticism is appropriate?
Oh, I think definitely there are special cases for sure where it's absolutely necessary, if not merely appropriate. It's going to be a gray area, obviously.
Yeah, I think there has to be trust built over time before you can get to that level. So, yeah, like if you have a professional mentor-mentee relationship, well, you do that,
right?
And and even like the Talmud. Think about the two people studying Talmud together; they're going at it, and to say, "Oh, that's BS," but they have that trust and understanding that they are trying to get a better understanding of what these words are saying.
Right. If you have a counselor, a lawyer, somebody who's supposed to catch you, help you not make public mistakes.
Yeah, sure.
Absolutely. If you have a public facing persona, you want to run your stuff by your advisors, counselors, fact checkers in advance.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, we all have a web. Yeah, go ahead.
Let me ask another question on the other end. When or how do we characterize when unsolicited criticism is inappropriate?
After the fact, if it backfires, but in advance, I don't know that you can. I mean, it's a probabilistic criterion, so you.
Oh, wait. So let me push on that one. So if it backfires, it's always inappropriate?
If it backfires, it turns out that it didn't work, and therefore it may
be ineffective, but that's different than inappropriate, right?
Well, yeah, basically, if it backfires in the sense that you get pushback and it doesn't change the other person's perspective, it can be off-putting and estranging. And if it's estranging, I think then it's decollaborating, in other words. So to use your terminology, if it ends up being decollaborating, then I think in retrospective, you say, well, I wish I hadn't put it that way, or hadn't waited till later or whatever. And of course, these are probabilistic. You can't get in somebody's head well enough to know whether it's going to work or not.
Okay, so let me use the dojo model again. If I'm trying to teach somebody the sidekick, and I say, do this, step one, step two, step three, and it doesn't work. Okay. Was that inappropriate or was that ineffective?
May be premature. That you took too big of an educational step as opposed to a baby step, which might have worked. There's three smaller steps instead of one big step. This is a problem when you're mentoring someone. How big of a step can they take without breaking it down into smaller steps? And I never quite know how small a step I need. But if I offer a big step and it doesn't work, then I will take a smaller step until I get there.
Okay, so I'll generate a little bit more nuance in here. Okay. If I'm doing this to a blue belt, then I'm pretty sure that that person is not going to try just one time, right? If I say this to a white belt or a brand new beginner, they're probably going to try it one time and say, they'll be puzzled. Okay. So as you gain in mastery of a skill or a domain, then one takes more accountability, more responsibility for actually internalizing what one is hearing as a suggestion or a recommendation, right? Whereas a white belt or just somebody random off the street could say, "Oh, I did this, didn't work. Not gonna do it. Gonna move on." And we hear that. I hear that a lot of times. So many people never try something because they want to be good right away, and they're not good, so they don't want to put in the time to
There's
improve.
a, there's a classical movie scene in Cannery Row where the male and female are practicing the dance and they're challenging each other on some complicated dance maneuver and they fall down, a dozen times before they finally master it.
Right.
That's your classical example of that.
But I'm also saying that if I say step one, step two, step three, and the blue belt is experimenting with step one, step two, step three, and eventually, let's say over 10 minutes or 2 days or whatever, masters that sidekick, then that's a different role in that collaboration, a different internalization of that guidance than somebody that says, "Oh, I fell down, so I'm no good at this, I'm giving up."
Yeah. And
Failure has to be a part of this. You have to be expecting failure and using it for learning.
right. It has to be safe so that you can fail any number of times before you master it.
Yeah, that's
if
what I
it's-
struggle at
If
with
it's,
in
if it's
work.
if basically you're getting an F, get out of class, then there's, if you're an educator, you got to be prepared for the slow learner who's salvageable versus the learning disabled that there's nothing is going to ever work. And
Yeah,
you don't
it's-
really know that until you've tried a few times. And
Yeah, it's
size.
about your reaction to that person who's giving up. Like, what would you tell that person? Okay, wait, don't give up so fast. Let's try this one more time. Try it this way. You got to keep trying. And that's the mentor-mentee relationship we're talking
Yeah,
about.
a little empathy.
Another,
Well, it took me 10 days to master that. So
yeah, yep.
don't give up in 10 minutes.
It takes me 6 months sometimes with these new technologies that are thrown my way. But one example I wanted to bring up was there was a movie called Stand and Deliver about Jaime Escalante, who
Yeah.
taught calculus to inner city
Yeah,
kids.
algebra and calculus. Yeah.
Right. And the theme was, he said, they will rise to your level of expectation. So think about that. He's expecting that in whatever number of years, these kids will take this calculus test and they'll do good. They'll do well. They'll get college credit. They'll improve their lives. And that's the expectation he held to no matter what. And initially, he had to get them on board. So, yeah, so he was in the authority position where he was able to give criticism at the right level. And he also understood what these kids were going through. Yeah.
And the fact that it was made into a movie shows how extraordinary that mentoring talent is. It's not something that your average teacher would have been any good at.
It's a true story, and they thought the kids cheated because it's unusual.
That's right. Yeah. In fact, there were people who never believed that it wasn't cheating.
Mm-hmm.
People who were never convinced that the kids actually learned it.
So let me throw another aspect of this picture in. In certain cases, and this may be a apocryphal, but let me at least recount this. That is, if someone wants to really join a particular dojo, let's say somebody wants to be a sumo wrestler, right? They spend, according to myth, 1 or 2 years sweeping the floors and making rice before they even start learning technique. And a lot of that is to test the motivation, test the discipline, test the receptivity, test the resolve, and for the sensei to understand all of that about the student before the sensei wastes time, quote unquote, trying to teach this person.
Yeah.
It's
Or
like on, wax off. How long do you have to wax on, wax off before you start learning, these techniques?
Yeah, paint the fence, paint it again. Right.
Now, I used to lurk for a long time in a new conversation group before I would pipe up because I just wanted to sort of get the sense of the community first. And I would lurk for, well, I don't know, some number of days, weeks, even months before I would pipe up.
So can you come up with a mathematical model of that process?
I think it's to the where you feel like you know the audience well enough to know where they're at and then try to meet them at a level that's not too high or not too low.
Yeah, I'm just curious, could you define variables for your understanding of them, their understanding of you, and come up with some mathematical thing that will help you see where you're at and where you could go, possibilities?
Emphatically, yes.
You believe, yeah.
Emphatically.
Yeah, I mean, coming up with system models is sometimes it's straightforward and sometimes takes a long time. So the short answer is yes, but how long does it take to get a mathematical model that you have any confidence in?
Right, but you did it.
Those models.
Well, I've done it in some cases. Yes.
It's not it's not a single construction. It's a process.
Yeah, but you
So,
can.
no matter
can
how
learn it.
bad it is, it's a start. Tomorrow it gets better. The next day it gets better than that. That's the systems modeling process.
Yeah, sizing up your community, your environment, sizing up the scenario. And some people are very good at sizing things up. I tend to be slow at sizing things up.
I mean, it could also just be writing, because like if someone's analyzing a video of a group interaction, you can have a sense, okay, this person is feeling upset, or this person is trying too hard, this person's interrupting. So yeah, it's possible to do that kind of analysis after the fact.
But you also want to know, are you overqualified or underqualified to engage with this group? Are you going to come in at a middle school level, a high school level, a college level, a graduate level, and is the members of it at the level you want to come in at, that you're capable of coming in at? That ain't easy to do quickly.
Yeah, that's a struggle.
Whether, is this a graduate level seminar? Or is this a middle school coffee clutch?
Yeah, like I may know just enough to be dangerous, but this other person's got a PhD.
Right.
And yeah, so how do I relate? Would they even listen to me? Or
and that's one of the reasons you lurk for a while.
Mentor.
Just to find out, who knows what that's credible and articulate and not just bullshitting, gobbledygook.
Yeah, like I could have all my ideas. I don't know if they're valid or not in the academic world. What, yeah. Or if they're worth pursuing, or just hobbies of mine. What?
Yeah, would that all teach?
And if you're in a graduate seminar and the person leading the seminar is off the mark, at what point do you pipe up and challenge them? And I've had to do that in graduate school once or twice, where
takes courage.
Where the professor was basically at sea on some topic within the curriculum, and people in the classroom sort of could sense it, but they didn't really know how to intervene.
Yes, I think that. Yeah, go ahead.
Or Teams meetings, front page stays there for 10 minutes, and the person believes that they've moved on to slide 8, 9, 10, whatever. How long does it take for an audience member to say, are you processing your slides? Are you actually advancing your slides? I've seen that happen for minutes.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, people make, mistakes. Like when I watch some of these Sudoku problem solvings, the guy who knows more than anybody, skips an elementary step. And so you see him skip the elementary step because he's looking for the complicated thing to work on. And the people who are watching the video, they go, can't you see that? Look there, look at that point there, use that piece of data. You're not using that trivial piece of data. So,
And
yeah.
I see, I have a friend who's a teacher, and what she said is, like when I do my streaming, I am on. I'm like I'm teaching a class because she has to prepare for the students. So there's that performance level, and then at other times she might just be chatting, but she's also like a leader in this Apple community, so she has to be on her game at that as well.
Yeah. And people have slips all the time and misspeak or skip over something that they shouldn't have skipped over.
Oh yeah,
all the time.
Right.
But yeah, sort of making sure that that the audience is in sync with the speaker. That's
okay.
If they get out of sync with the speaker and everybody gets lost, you got to intervene because you're wasting everybody's time.
So let's say that whole session was recorded and people can go back and show the professor or whatever, this is where I lost you.
Right.
So if you had that large feedback model, and then that's why teachers get observed by principals to see if they are doing what they expected to do. Yeah, but I think the idea of having everything recorded for provenance is something our society is getting to. I think every event,
but they keep replaying your mistakes. The comedians keep showing these stumblings.
Yeah, the question is, how do you appropriately use these archives?
Yeah.
And like, say we had archives of Albert Einstein or whatever. Yeah, we have movies now that show an actor playing Einstein, like in Oppenheimer. There was a scene like that. But what if we had the actual video of Einstein and Oppenheimer talking about igniting the atmosphere?
You would see them flubbing up. But I mean, Einstein even spoke of his greatest blunder. So and the really competent people will not only recognize a blunder, but publicly admit it, that they made a mistake.
Oh yeah, that takes a lot of guts.
Here's the mistake I made, and now let me show you the correct way to do this where I screwed up. The people who hide their mistakes, who cover them up, there's the people that I don't trust. I trust the ones who admit, let me go back and fix that mistake.
Yeah, just like Stephen Hawking, he admitted a mistake. Then moved forward.
Yeah.
But how do you get the trust to see? There's a level you have to get to admit your mistakes, and you have to have the trust of the people you're admitting them to. Now, in the academic world, there is a bar, which is the scientific method, and that's what was put in place to enable us to winnow truth from false in terms of physical phenomena. Yep.
Yeah. And I've had encounters with academics who have made a mistake and won't admit it, and it's an unresolved conflict.
There's various reasons, like maybe they're close to retirement, they need their tenure or whatever. It could be anything in their mind.
Or their income depends on it.
Well, a lot of people have that problem, especially whatever job you got.
Why did Joseph Priestley never give up on phlogiston, even though he gets credit for co-discovering oxygen? Lavoisier gets the oxidation reduction reaction modeled, and Priestley ends up taking the phlogiston theory to his grave. I get, hello? And there are lots of examples of people who take an incorrect theory, a disproven theory, to their grave. They'll never give it up.
If there's a ring around the moon, it's going to rain tomorrow.
Well,
a
ring of what? Space debris?
The atmosphere, the atmosphere is causing
Maybe we'll have one
Portion.
day a ring of all the debris of the failed moon landings around the moon.
I mean, if you're any good at meteorology, you should be able to explain, the atmospheric effect that you're attending and how to, under what circumstances can you interpret that as a portent?
Okay,
Yeah,
but see now,
sky
I don't
warnings.
understand why Sam brought that up. I can't see what he's trying to say.
It's a heuristic, not scientifically proven in any way,
Right.
but believed for decades or centuries, which is now, as Barry is saying, explainable by scientific phenomena.
Yeah, was it a correlation? Because if you have a correlation,
Yes.
then you can say, well, these two things are correlated, so it changes the probability,
Right.
By Bayesian. But then you say Bayesian inference, and 95% of your audience will have no idea what the hell Bayesian inference is a
Yeah,
reference
but, correlation is interpreted different by different people. Like, for example, you could say, if you pray, you're going to have a better day tomorrow. Okay. They can say, oh, well, I prayed last night and, I had enjoyed my breakfast today. Okay. There's that kind of correlation.
But if you meditate,
Uh,
which is a synonym for praying, meditation is.
I'm still trying to respond to Eric's point.
yeah.
So
So,
is that
yeah.
or
No, well, I've never heard that phrase, ring around the moon. Is that something from history that people believed, or
in a
what?
book somewhere a long time ago? I'd have to
Yeah.
look for a reference.
Yeah, so you have a reference and I don't have that reference, and that's a gap in communication right there.
Exactly.
Yeah, so if you had a footnote that
which was
I
an
could look.
invitation to close the gap. Yes.
Yeah, so that, like, my understanding was the gap, and I asked you about what does this mean?
Right.
So I'm getting a better picture, but I still don't get exactly what you're saying.
This means the atmosphere is saturated with moisture.
In the context of the original question, your act was trying to plug a hole in your mental model about what I was saying. Okay. And your question was, what did you mean? Okay. It could have come across as, never heard of that. You're wrong, right? It could have come across as that, but it didn't, right? So it could have come across as criticism, but it came across, as Barry illustrated and exemplified earlier, as a personal question. So in that exchange, there's a considered interaction style that you engaged in, and there was one that I almost intentionally did because I knew that some people would get that and some people wouldn't.
Yeah.
And that invites, those who are curious to lean in.
Right. If you have a correlation, is there an underlying model, or you just have a correlation that's observed, but no underlying model?
Yep.
And
it's important with young people who don't get the references of the 1970s or 80s. So, like, if I say the Gorton's Fisherman, most people won't know what that was. Whereas I grew up seeing that commercial all the time,
I don't know the Gorton. Of course, I don't watch television very much.
Just the Gorton's Fisherman, Gorton's of Gloucester.
I don't know.
Nope. Okay, so it's a 70s thing.
Yeah, I remember people when I was a child, but there was a period where I didn't watch television, so I didn't get all the jingles.
Okay, but I remember seeing something on the internet where someone did a footnote that gave a link to that reference, knowing that people wouldn't understand it. Right. So that's a proactive form of helping your audience.
Right.
So you could trace back, I want to know who's Gorton's Fisherman, and go to Wikipedia or whatever authoritative source can tell you that.
Well, standard linear text, footnotes are used to sort of link off to other stuff where today on a web page, you wouldn't necessarily use a footnote, you'd use a link, right?
Right, but it's a jump link. You're interrupting your process of reading.
It could be hover.
It's a tangent.
Well, that's the thing. Like, where the method of, I know that when Ted Nelson first saw Wikipedia with the hover pop-ups, he said, this is terrible, because it really should be something different with a visible connection. But now that we're looking at 3D models, so like, where should that link be? Should it be behind the document? Should it be like a little tag that you can follow, a string or something? And that's a
a side frame,
anything,
options.
Right.
None of those
or a clickable link, that takes you to the.
See, we're all stuck in our mental models now. The question is, how can it be flexible enough for the future
Right.
to redesign? And maybe it should be user configurable. Yeah, like, and see, there should be a partnership between developers and users that say, okay, this is a feature, it's available, but you decide how you want to use it. Like, do you want this gesture or do you want this pinky to do something? I think you have to have that partnership and mentorship in that situation too. Like, so the developer can offer a video showing, hey, I built this feature. This is an example of how you might want to use it, but give the user the control to bring it into their environment or not, and what they want to map it to.
So an earlier version of that was Doug's view spec.
View specs, yeah.
Step towards that, but it was anticipating the need to sort of personalize that presentation.
Right. But maybe people don't want to use the Z key. They want their own, yeah.
Or they want a verbal interaction rather than a
Yeah. Well, yeah, now we're gonna have voice recognition and all that. But what I see Fro doing is trying to nail it down, trying to say, okay, these are your menu buttons. And when you do this, this, or this, it's going to be these 4 menu options. So does that work for you? He's working with us in a university scholar. So he's building a system for her, but that won't work for everybody. So we shouldn't be nailing down these actions and whatever software.
Now we're into, dare I say it, religious territory.
Oh, yes, yes, thou shalt use this, not
exactly.
This.
My editor key bindings are better than your editor key bindings.
Right? Don't put super glue on your fingers.
Right, but why did we get into those? Was it inflexibility at the time? We couldn't build that kind.
I would say we were limited to 7 bits.
Yeah, right.
And those modifiers had to take on some meaning so that those modifiers were efficient, right? So you had control, then you had meta, then you had hyper, then you had whatever super, and then you had, window, and then you had system.
Bucky keys, 2, 3, 4, 5 Bucky keys.
Have you ever seen a symbolics list machine keyboard?
No, I haven't.
Keys.
I've heard of
control, hyper, meta, space. Blah, 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 blah. They're all over. The keyboard is massive.
Yeah, I've heard of APL keyboards. I guess
APL was the weird one. It had all those strange symbols. And I have a correspondent who likes to use the extended ASCII with all those strange symbols that are not the recognizable alphanumeric symbols that you are used to.
What is extended
ASCII? And he uses them, and I have no idea how to parse, the presentation. They're just gibberish. He's using some private notation that he's never explained.
Okay, so here's what I'll lean in. What is extended ASCII? Which are you referring to?
Well, there's 256 character ASCII where you have to
originally 7
something. Yeah. And there are a bunch of symbols, the Greek letters and other things that you can get if you type some key combination that aren't just straight up on the keyboard.
Like Alt and a number in the keypad.
Yeah. And for example, the double pointy brackets, double pointy angle brackets, I like to use those. They're sort of like a European quotation or something like that. And I like to use them as sort of like not just a paragraph quote, but a whole, like indentation, because you can't do indentation, but you can put double angle brackets around 3 paragraphs to say this is all a quote.
Use 3 backquotes now, Barry.
Say again?
Use 3 backticks now, Barry.
That's in Wiki's wiki.
Backticks.
Oh, that's Markdown, actually. Yeah, 3 backticks.
Again, trying to, one up you by making a reference and then having.
Oh, well, yeah. Enroth had really some weird things for that.
They were not the backticks. Yeah. But anyway, okay. So I'm still not sure. I'm not sure it's germane, but I didn't know what you meant by extended ASCII because there's the 256, then there's extended binary coded decimal, EBCDIC.
Yeah. Well,
And
that's
there's,
sort of gone by the wayside, I think.
yeah, Unicode's a mess.
8, 16, blah, 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 blah.
And then Unicode, well, Unicode's got a lot of stuff in it, so.
Yeah, they're adding new things to Unicode.
Yeah, they're putting emojis in Unicode and all that stuff.
Yeah, why? Is that our new language that we need
Got a
to?
big code page to work with and they want to fill it all up.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, regardless of the impact to society. It's another externality. It's gonna like that.
So let's encode it into, you know, the 65,000 characters.
But for
Yep.
example, the euro dollar symbol,
Yep.
that's not the keyboard in America. So you got to find out how to do it, or yen symbol for, you know, those are all these ones that are not uncommon, but they're not an American standard.
Well, do you know why the Commodore had a yen? Because the guy went over to Japan and he said, this keyboard has to have a yen symbol.
Yeah. So, you know, you get to the point where I always have to go look up how to do a lambda, a lowercase lambda.
Mm-hmm.
And
I just
there's,
go to the page.
I never figured out how to do a lambda on a Mac keyboard.
Yeah, and even the Mac keyboard shortcuts, it was like I didn't know them until I really needed them.
Yeah.
And that's another theme. Yeah, like
the E accent. I found out how to do that. But.
Right. I'll learn just what I need until I need to learn more. So what does that mean? That more efficiency motivated, or I don't want to take the extra time at front to learn all the possibilities. Like I'll just learn as I need it.
Yeah.
So is that
another
yeah,
good topic? When
yeah.
is that appropriate? When is that limiting?
Yeah, I mean, I found in my work experience, that's the way things happen. I just get thrown into a new technology or problem, and I have to learn by osmosis, just keep searching the web for hints, you know.
So I suggest that that's very appropriate for very specialized kinds of knowledge / skill sets.
Right.
The way the elementary education system is set up, we believe that the opposite is true of a number of different topics. Like, for example, the ability to read and write, okay, is something you really need to get good at no matter what you do.
Mm-hmm.
The ability to do basic arithmetic, arguably basic algebra, although many people even begin arguing at that point, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The basics of scientific principles, the basics of chemistry, you know, the
Yep.
cooking, the basics of currency and money, you know, some of that is
Yeah.
just knowledge that'll help you everywhere.
Yeah,
So
and that's the school system.
knowledge that one should have in one's brain. And then there's other stuff that belongs in some AI somewhere that you just ask it every once in a while because you don't need it all the time. And it doesn't change the way you think. Right?
Yeah. So for example, yeah,
she can change the way you think. It's something that ought to be pre-learned. Because it stretches your brain, it stretches your mental models.
Yeah, so like, do you think long division is a good practice for a student? Because like it integrates all their math skills in that process. Or do you think it's obsolete because they could just go to a calculator and divide any two numbers now?
Yeah. You want me
They should get rid of the old-fashioned division sign, the two dots over the horizontal line. They should just throw
get rid of
that. Get the hell out of it.
Yeah, do this.
Terrible.
And then when I watch my mom doing math, I can't understand how she learned math because they taught it a very different way. I learned like the new math, regrouping tens and all that. So,
to answer your question, I do think it's useful because so many people have no idea of decimal place and whether an answer is 5 or 0.5 or 0.005 or 5.
Yeah, it gets you thinking. Yeah.
You don't even get that.
Yep. Yeah, and you learn the rules of how to shift the decimal.
Deal with just the first 2 digits here, you know, or the first 3 digits, and you know, get a sense of is it greater or more than 1? Sorry, less than 1. Was it greater or less than 10? You know, just simple things like that. Where
Right.
just plug things into calculators, you're not thinking that way.
Right. People suck at math. They really do.
Yeah, the thinking about the math concepts I find very important.
Math
Yeah.
and logic, that's a skill that some people get good at, a lot of people don't.
Yeah, and it could be taught to very young kids with toys and yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, slide rules do that very well.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
Analog, yeah.
Well, yeah,
I got a
you
few
had to
of
work
them,
out the decimal point of the slider because it's omitted. Yeah,
yeah, so why did that stop getting taught?
because of the cheap hand calculators.
Yeah, so but in
The bamboo
but,
shortage of 1970. I'm just bullshitting.
right. But think about engineers who used to depend on slide rules. So in that industry, what happened? Were the computers just thrown in to take over and it no longer mattered? Or I know there are people who still love doing that, but
First, the four function calculators, and then the scientific calculators. What was that the 70s, I think.
yeah, late 70s, I'd say.
And then people stopped using slide rules because the calculators were cheap and reliable for the most part.
I remember the day my physics teacher brought to class the very first HP 25 he or anyone else had ever come across.
Mm,
It was RPN, it was
yep.
programmable, it was
Yeah,
alive.
I've got one. Well,
I still have my HP 25 in that drawer over there.
yeah, I learned the RPN as well.
It was astonishing. We hadn't seen that before.
Yeah, and I have the manual about how to program it, but that's not important to me now. You see.
Push down stacks. I never heard of a push down stack until
Uh-huh.
RPN and computers used it. But that's a very powerful technique to push down stack in RPN.
Yep.
But that was never taught in any classes I ever took.
By the way, the notion of stack, you know what technology originated that concept, that construct?
The cafeteria plates.
That's what I thought, but no.
I'm talking about
That was the metaphor.
computation technology. Okay, I admit, yeah. Plates
Yeah,
precede-
where does it go back to? I don't know.
Oh, you mean not the metaphor, but the actual. Well,
Yeah, who brought it in?
was it reverse Polish notation?
What-
Was a Polish guy.
Was it von Neumann or later?
Was von Neumann Polish? I don't think he was he?
No, but Hungarian. But I'm just wondering. I'm just trying to guess.
There probably was some Polish guy who gets credit for reverse Polish notation.
Serving, but I learned from the AI community that it was Lisp that was first implementing a push down stack. Okay. And I've heard no other contradictions, to contest that particular claim.
Of the language, but not the person who introduced it.
Oh yeah, I mean, again, I learned this at Stanford way back in the 80s when they introduced Lisp to me.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's also part of computer architecture.
Yes,
So-
push down stack is classical.
Now it is. Now it is.
It wasn't always, right?
No. It wasn't.
Yes. So you're saying Lisp came first and that encouraged architects to implement a stack,
Yes.
which I could understand because functional programming goes way back. Yeah.
And that's why we don't remember to save our stack pointer when we take an interrupt.
Yep. Just as this book by Robert Martin, I started looking through it and he's got some really good ideas. Really thinking about your components, how often they change, yeah, and where to put them.
Revive the notion that you brought to this.
Yep.
Which is Bob Martin now likes a particular language, having coded now for 4 or 5 decades. And do you know which language that is? I know you know, Eric.
Mm-hmm. Closure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's, after so many decades of experience, saying the language of the future is going to have these characteristics. Oh, by the way, there's a language that already has all these characteristics.
Yep.
And it's code.
Yeah, the reasoning I've heard is that because we're just adding cores to the machines, you want your software to run on multiple cores and you don't want any side effects.
That's right. You want data immutability. So you can parallelize, arbitrarily. Okay.
Yeah, because you're not going to increase the speed of your chips anymore.
Not indefinitely. No.
No, 3 gigabytes per second was probably the maximum.
Well, we have 5 gigahertz machines now.
Yeah. Okay, fine. Yeah, but how much?
Wi-Fi is 5 gigahertz, but then you're broadcasting it instead.
Yeah.
You're sending out photons at 5 gigahertz.
Okay, so let me reconstruct how we got here. The original question was, well, the question we were on was, are there cases where unsolicited criticism is not appropriate? And then we got into push down stacks. So somewhere along the way, we traversed a number of nodes.
Yeah.
I'm trying to pop stack here, okay?
Yep.
There's times where it may
Stack
be
Overflow.
appropriate, but you're going to get fired for doing it. See, that's the real problem. Can you take the hit for correcting something important and off with their heads? It's the classical. It's my last act of salvation for society, but I'm going to be martyred for it.
Unfortunately, it's the most common aspect, which is the power dynamics.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The emperor has no clothes. It's the kid, the kid who you can't really blame him for saying the emperor's has no clothes. But that's your classical metaphor for who is allowed to say criticism, the elephant in the room criticism.
Yep.
And a child shall lead them. That was one of the observations.
Mhm.
A child can get away with it and an adult couldn't.
And how do you know if your
Fire a
CEO has no clothes?
Exactly.
How do you determine that?
So there is the classical thing.
That question, Eric.
Yeah, I mean, or does the CIO have no clothes? Or the previous CIO didn't, but
Or he
the
has
new
no
one.
closure.
Yeah, right.
Have no closure.
I got to tell you a joke about my previous boss. He was basically giving the new hire, his replacement, an advice. So he said, here are 3 envelopes, okay? If you hit your first crisis, open the first envelope. If you hit your second crisis, open the second envelope. If you hit your third crisis, open the third envelope. And the guy says, okay, but why don't you tell me now? And the guy says, just wait. So things are going well, but a year or 2 into the job, the guy hits his first crisis and he opens up the first envelope. And the first envelope says, blame the previous guy.
A good one.
So he said, okay, well, it was my former boss. He did all this, blah, 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 right? So he gets away with that. So another couple of years go by, hits another crisis, okay? And then he opens the second envelope and he says, blame yourself. Take accountability yourself.
Okay.
And so the guy says, yeah, it's my fault. I should do this, blah, 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 blah. So he looks like he's accountable, so he gets by with it. A couple of years later, he enters his biggest, third crisis. He opens a third envelope and it says, create 3 envelopes.
Yes.
That was told to me by my former boss. And it's actually not just humorous, but there's a lot of truth to that.
So now I'm trying to grok, what does it mean when create 3 envelopes? I'm trying to follow that through. So like it's an infinite regress.
Start your own company, right?
Oh, so you're now a boss, so now you can do this to you.
You're fired, leave and start your own competing company.
Ah, okay.
There you go, Barry.
Yeah, so you guide the next generation through the war that you fought.
Right.
And they'll fight their wars. And okay, now I had a crisis Friday afternoon because we were doing an implementation and I'm testing the iPhone app and it doesn't work. Okay, why? Where is the problem? And I know that the back end is okay. I've tested the back end. It's the Xcode. It's a version control issue. Now, why did that happen? Is it my fault? Is it the developer's fault? Is it the process? Well, that's the next step. How do we improve this process?
Do you use dash latest or do you actually use specific version reference?
It's Git. So, but we have several branches, and the thing is, you have a developer working in a branch, but then we have like a UAT branch and a production branch, and it's really something in between UAT and production, which I think is really Xcode settings or something that's not captured properly. Like it's an environment thing, and trying to figure out.
It's always permissions and account issues, then it's environment issues.
Yeah, I think I was trying to search Apple discussions to see if I could come to some sense Now I was able to get it working by myself by taking the UAT code that works and
That's
just
classic line. Works on my machine.
Yep. Yep.
The girl was living here fine.
But the finding out this problem at 5 p.m. on a Friday, it's like hit me. Yeah. And then I had to communicate to the stakeholders, okay, this is the problem, this is what we're gonna do, this is what we're gonna test. And I had to get the guy from India to look at it with me. So this is so frustrating. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fascinating question that I could ask millions of questions on that, but
Mm-hmm.
I'd save Barry from that right now.
Yeah, I just had to vent it somewhere.
Questions that don't have consistent answers that work every time.
Yeah, and Apple's changed their whole operating system this year again. So it's like it never ends. And then Microsoft decommissions a product we've been using. So that's the motivation for why we had to do this on Friday, you know? That's what we're stuck with now. So where do you step back and think about your architecture when you're in this push-pull dynamic?
Architecture runs out of steam and it's on the verge of collapse.
If you looked at what our infrastructure is around companies, you'd be surprised.
Hierarchical systems tend to have their inherent flaws, and
Yep. Well, that's what Cory Doctorow's article was about.
Peer-to-peer versus hierarchical.
These data breaches are happening to companies who haven't upgraded over the years. They get ransomed, and that runs the economy now, ransomware.
Do you remember?
Oh, that talk about crisis, the ransomware. Oh boy, what a crisis that is.
Yeah, yep.
Well, wait. When we talk about architecture, we got to talk about what happened to Southwest Airlines a couple of years ago.
Mhm.
Got to talk about what's happening to Boeing right now.
Yep.
And in fact, personally, I use a continuous glucose monitor in my
Yep.
arm. I can't tell you how often the sensor disconnects from my
Yep.
app on my phone.
Yep.
And it takes sometimes, 12 to 36 hours to reconnect. And approximately 50% of the time, the sensor has to get replaced.
Yeah. Now I'm glad you did a video a while ago where you explained those problems, because I had one as part of a diabetes management program, and I got frustrated. It didn't work the second time or whatever, and I just threw it away. Essentially, I didn't. Yeah. So now I know that these are defective products.
Which version, which product you were using?
I can't remember offhand, but yeah, I don't know which model, but I had to get a prescription, and then yeah, and then when it didn't work, okay, I told chatted with the support person, but it was like, okay, I'm not doing this,
I would be willing to do that, except that when it does work, it actually materially changes my habits and my
Yeah, that's good.
No.
I mean, the first time it worked, I got a picture of a typical week, and I learned things about my eating and patterns of what does what. So I got the sense of that, and that was enough for me going forward for a while.
So here's an example. I'm about to give Abbott Labs, the manufacturer of my CGM, unsolicited criticism.
Good.
I gotta
deserve.
What other product can fail approximately 50% of the time and still be successful in business?
Yeah,
how do you build a tech support organization to survive that? How do you build your financial model to survive that?
Yeah, if you're putting the burden on the user to get the prescription, get the device, pair it to the phone and all that. Yeah, so where are your points of failure? My theory would be the microelectronics inside of it, something, because these circuits are fragile, I think.
Other Bluetooth device I own.
Yeah.
Such a bad experience with Bluetooth reconnects.
Mm-hmm.
No other device is that bad.
Now, I thought it was NFC that it's using, near field, to pair your phone to it.
But the actual data sync is Bluetooth.
Okay.
Because, it says you must have Bluetooth running. So one of the standard remediation is turn off Bluetooth turn it back on again. Okay.
Yeah, so could it be the battery doesn't have enough power to communicate with it, or?
But they're essentially designing for that with this 2-week device life,
Yeah, right.
you know.
Hmm.
And the fact that it reconnects often
Uh-huh.
means it's not the battery, you know.
All right.
Yeah,
So-
having multiple wireless keyboards and mice in the same space, you can easily get them cross-wired, and trying to sort that out is a pain.
Yeah, I'm finding like unpredictably some electronic thing will fail and won't be able to use it ever again. And that's just life. You gotta deal with it.
Deal with a crippled device, but it's still usable in some crippled.
Yeah. So what do we depend on for our data, et cetera? Huh.
Where you just drop some functionality is no longer available.
I'm trying to ask
Yes.
AI Companion to summarize what we came up with on unsolicited criticism.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, see what it says. It says, you guys don't know what you're talking about.
So I'm saying provide guidelines for when it is appropriate and when it is not to deliver unsolicited criticism. Let me see what it comes up with.
Versus unsolicited advice, which is not the same as criticism.
Okay, so it says based on the context provided, the meeting transcript does not provide specific guidance for when it is appropriate or inappropriate to deliver unsolicited criticism.
Well, that's true. You said it depends.
We're exploring various scenarios. I can't figure out.
Sometimes it's appropriate, sometimes it's not, and sometimes you simply don't know until after the fact whether it
So
would.
now, if you ask it to evaluate research in psychology about this topic, what would it recommend?
It doesn't know about Jeffrey Rubin, I'll tell you that.
Right, but from what it knows, it's from the trillions of words it has. What can it tell us? You want to try that?
To a different AI you're talking about, right?
Well, yeah, I don't know. You may want to try it on several AIs and see what what they recommend.
Okay, I'm gonna ask chat all because that's the one that actually fires off parallel requests.
Mhm.
Now, give me some a prompt. Just give me a specific prompt.
Okay. Given current psychology research, what ways would you suggest for giving feed? Okay. It would be a question like, when is unsolicited feedback appropriate? So, based on current psychological research.
Okay, so I'm not typing that fast. Let me okay, so I've got given current psychological research, when is unsolicited criticism appropriate?
Yeah,
Okay, shall I just try that?
yeah, just try that.
Okay, I'm firing that off now. Zephyr 7B beta says, come on, things are scrolling by, so I can't read it.
Mhm.
According to recent psychological research, unsolicited criticism should be reserved for situations where the person receiving it is demonstrating behaviors that pose a significant risk or harm to themselves or others.
Okay.
In such cases, feedback may be necessary to prevent potential negative consequences. However, in other circumstances, it's generally better to offer constructive and solicited criticism rather than unsolicited feedback because it can be more effective, less defensive inducing, and ultimately lead to greater positive outcomes. American Psychological Association 2018. Unsolicited criticism should be delivered with empathy, sensitivity, and respect. It's also important to consider whether providing feedback would actually be helpful given the individual situation, as some people might not have the resources or capacity to act on suggestions at present time. Overall, unsolicited criticism should only be used sparingly and thoughtfully after careful consideration of its potential impact.
Yeah, in other words, it depends on
Not,
factors that you may or may
Yeah.
not have data on.
there's a second completed response already. UChat comes back with unsolicited criticism, which involves offering advice or feedback without being asked for it, can be a sensitive topic. Psychological research sheds light on the appropriateness of unsolicited criticism in certain situations. It is important to note that the appropriateness of unsolicited criticism may vary depending on the context and the individuals involved. Let's explore this further based on the available research. Unsolicited advice refers to receiving information, advice, input, or suggestions from others without requesting it. This type of advice is often unwanted and can leave individuals feeling irritated, shamed, or judged. Unsolicited advice can sometimes feel like criticism, especially when it involves someone offering their opinion on what you could be doing differently. And there's a reference. Psych studies have examined the effects of giving unsolicited advice on the person offering it. One study found that individuals who recall giving feedback, whether solicited or unsolicited, reported feeling a higher sense of power and dominance. Another study found that individuals who want to boost their power tend to be more likely to give unsolicited advice. Determining the appropriateness of UC can be complex and subjective. Consider the following factors. Relationship. The nature of the relationship between the giver and the receiver can influence the appropriateness. Intentions. Understanding the intentions behind the unsolicited. Okay, all right. Receptiveness. Okay. Impact. Conclusion. In summary, the appropriateness of unsolicited criticism depends on various factors, including the. Okay, all right. So it's mealy mouthed about the rest. Okay, so I think we've covered that to the detail that these responses cover. In fact, I think we covered it more deeply than that already.
But there's an elephant in the room that's gonna be on the news in the next week or so. The 20-year-old who shot Trump got unsolicited criticism in the form of a bullet.
Was that appropriate or inappropriate?
The Secret Service killed him. They shot him.
Right, but that's
Returned to fire.
yeah, but what if they had tackled him? They had to make a split-second decision.
On the
and
roof of a distant.
Yeah. Yeah, so was there anyone up there or not? I don't know the facts, but
Probably
like,
not.
yeah,
If they
so
had
like,
seen somebody on the roof with a rifle, they would have.
right,
done-
so what, it was it a Secret Service person who aimed and shot?
I think it was somebody in front of Trump who fired a rifle at the shooter.
Okay,
Not the direction of the bullets, the direction of the sound, and they shot him.
yeah, I mean, the
shot.
decision that had to be made was to prevent other people from getting shot.
They
in
said
that
the
moment.
Secret Service said they returned fire. That was the item of the news. They would quote return to fire and killed him. He was a better shot than the 20-year-old kid was a lousy shot.
Yeah, so could they have given constructive feedback unsolicited to the shooter in any other way?
Well, in advance, but they didn't know that he was
Yeah,
they had
but
no idea that he was gonna
was there any intelligence that this could happen?
I saw a report that this guy was a registered Republican.
He was. And he also gave $15 to, was it Project Blue or whatever it's called?
Okay, but all these facts have to be verified, and we don't know where they're coming from. And another thing, like, would it have been possible to actually deep fake this whole thing?
Possible, but unlikely, because he actually did fire multiple rounds.
Yeah, we have the evidence.
Sounded like pop guns. They didn't sound like real rifles.
Yeah, yeah, there's going to be
But I
conspiracies.
think it was a
coming out.
low-powered rifle. I think it was a low-powered rifle.
Called it an AR-15.
So
Was it?
this is going to be just like another JFK conspiracy and false flag, whatever people come up with now.
There
So
will
now,
always be crazy conspiracy theories.
Right.
That's a
Right.
given. How you debunk them or fail to debunk them, that's another issue.
well, that's all sense making. People have to do their own research. Well, the question is how relevant is it for me to do that rabbit trail thinking about this when I could focus on other things that are more
They'll probably
important?
never know. I mean, unless they can find some manifesto that he wrote, which they haven't found anything yet. Probably haven't had a
Yeah,
chance.
but now you have more polarization. I think you're dividing people more now, or unless the country comes together over this and says this should not, this is unacceptable. That
I made a prediction on Facebook. I just wrote down one word: schismogenesis.
But wait a minute. You've been saying that for years.
I know, but I said it in this particular case as a response to somebody.
So let me interpret that. Is there going to be schismogenesis in that MAGAs will now finally say, hey, maybe we ought to be doing something about gun violence?
Oh, I don't think on
No,
that.
I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't
No.
think it's going to happen either.
I
No.
think Yeah, they're gonna argue that, hey, if we had more guns, we're protected against these
Plenty of people
situations.
with guns. Look at all the Secret Service people with guns. They have plenty of guns there.
Well, except that you
Yeah.
can't shoot a bullet at a bullet. You can only shoot a bullet at the shooter after he shot the bullet.
Would you have wanted like 1,000 people in that crowd to all be shooting at that roof?
Oh, no.
Can you imagine?
First of all, people in the crowd couldn't get in with guns because there was,
They
what do
screamed.
you call it,
They have metal detectors.
metal detectors. Although somebody pointed out that you can now fabricate a gun out of plastic and it won't trip. Although I don't know about the bullets. Will bullets trigger a metal detector? That I don't know.
Well, if they have to be strong enough to contain an explosion, to direct the force in one particular direction, can you do that with anything other than metal?
I don't. Well, I mean, you can make plastic that's pretty hard and durable, but I don't know. I mean, that's beyond my knowledge level. But there are plastic bullets and rubber bullets. I mean, they do exist.
Okay, so we're processing this in a certain way. Other groups are processing it in their way. And where's the communication that's going to be needed to bring the country together and move forward, or what? What do we need now?
I wouldn't be surprised if some Secret Service agents had roles, blame some shortcoming of the Secret Service.
Well, there's a whole dynamic there about who has to say what.
Yeah.
In this, yeah, reporters say it this way, White House communication. We saw that in the West Wing episodes. Yeah.
Nobody from the Secret Service at the press conference.
Yeah. And then do I need to spend hours glued to the TV because of this? I have my choice.
Not me.
No, but people will.
I'll read the headlines, on Google News headlines. And
Yeah, I mean, I found out from YouTube this morning, so that's because I wasn't paying attention until this morning.
Well, I found out last evening, and I spent not a lot of time, but I spent at least 3 to 5 minutes trying to find out, who was the audience person who got killed. I couldn't find any information about that.
I don't know if they revealed the name. I think 2 people were critically wounded and 1 died in the audience, but as far as I know, they haven't released any names. I didn't see any names released this morning. Sorry?
Like 3 pops, and then Trump covered his ear or something like that.
Yeah.
But all the people behind him were like beginning to lower themselves to hide themselves, but there was one woman who dropped immediately.
Oy.
And I was wondering whether that was the person who was killed.
Oh, very likely she was the one who was hit. Yeah.
Yeah, because she was like right behind him, right where a bullet might have passed.
Oh, she was in the gallery behind him.
She was just to Trump's rear left.
Yeah, she probably got it. She probably one that got. Remember, the bullet went right, whizzed past his ear and had to hit somebody behind him.
His right ear.
Right ear. Yeah, so on the left side.
But the rooftop was to Trump's right, as far as I understand the diagram.
Okay, well, there'll be diagrams eventually, I'm sure.
There already are.
Yeah.
And there's the same thing that happened with JFK. How do they analyze the magic bullet or what?
I don't think this is going to be as mysterious, though.
No, but still.
I mean, they have the body of the shooter and his rifle on the rooftop where he was. So they know where he was and what weapon he had. And they also found some devices in his car that the bomb squad had to figure out what these devices were that was in the guy's car. They haven't said what the bomb squad found. But
so what do you think? I mean, I don't know enough. Is this a lone shooter or is this part of a bigger
20-year? Well, yeah, the question is whether anybody put him up to it. I would be surprised if there's anybody behind it.
Has any family member of the shooter stepped forward and said anything?
I think it's too early for us to speculate, but what I would want to know is what was this kid taught in school? What did he learn from his parents? And how could he have come to the conclusion in his mind that Trump needs to be shot? Something triggered him, and what was it? And then it's a question, how does that reflect back on how we're teaching kids, or where does he live and what that caused this? What really it should be analyzed.
And There'll be multiple theories, but whether or not anything's dispositive, who knows?
Right, but
Unless he
then that's
left a
also
manifest-
spinned.
Unless he either told somebody or left a manifesto.
Well, FBI has psych experts who look at personalities and likelihood of behavior.
A 20-year-old.
Yeah, and think what is a
We
20-year-old
have
these
almost no
days?
information on him. Yes, he has no history of being in trouble with the law.
Okay, but what I would do is just look at his age. So 20 years, he was born 2003 or 2004. So he grew up. So like when he was 5 years old, Obama came into office for 8 years, and then 13 years old, he gets Trump. And so wait. Yeah,
No,
5 and 13 is
their
18.
term.
2016 is so 2017, Trump comes into office and he's what, 13 or 14?
13 or 14.
Yeah, so he's going through high school with Trump in office. And what is he learning in high school that makes him think that Trump needs to be killed?
Yeah. And what 20-year-old actually is a registered affiliate of a party? I was not registered myself.
Yeah, at 18, he may have voted, but where did he, yeah, what, he didn't join.
Yeah, he made a $15 donation to Action Blue or whatever it was called. When Biden got elected, he made a $15 donation to Action Blue or some Democratic related fund thing.
Yeah,
Even though
Yes.
he registered as Republican, probably at age 18 and registered as a Republican.
it's really a psychological problem we need to understand. Like what's going on with kids at that age, with what they're being fed, whatever, media, movies.
They're being fed unsolicited criticism. That's what they're being fed.
Yeah, like people could say it's the video games he played or something like that, you know?
Look at Sam. He said,
I know my daughter, who is now 21, and I've met a number of her friends, not all of
Yeah.
them, at least a handful. And they all feel like the world is fucked, and we, the previous generations, fucked it
well,
up.
they're right. They're right about that. The world is fucked, and they can blame the people who created the world that they were born into.
Yeah, to an
You're
extent,
absolutely right.
you know, I know this is true of every generation, but they in particular feel that they've got
Yeah.
almost no impact on it. You know, they
And
they
it's
don't.
more. I mean, maybe when I was born in 45, just as the Second World War was ending, maybe, people who were born in the early 1940s thought the world was fucked, or in the late 30s, because it was fucked, leading up to World War II. But by the time I was old enough to learn about it, that was 10 years after World War II was over. And except for Hawaii, it really never came to the US.
You know, there was also a failed assassination attempt on Hitler.
More than one, wasn't there?
Yeah, all I know is from that one movie. If I hadn't watched that movie, I wouldn't have known.
Mhm.
Well, there was the one on Reagan, and there was quite a few in American past history, going back to the 19th century.
No, wait,
Garfield.
I understand. There was never an assassination attempt on Obama, right?
No, I don't think
There
so.
wasn't one on Clinton, right?
Not to my knowledge. Reagan was the last one that was reported to have an assassination attempt.
But there also wasn't one on George W.
No.
So
Reagan
again,
was the last president for which there was an assassination attempt. However, there were other people, not the president. There was Scalise at the baseball
Yeah.
game, and Gabby Gifford in Arizona, and I think one or two. Oh yeah, then the husband of Pelosi.
That's right. That's right.
So you had other attempts on lesser officials in recent years.
Arguably, it was an attempt on Pelosi, not her husband. Okay.
And then, of course, there was January 6th, which is quite a few people died. Police officers died on the January 6th thing, and were certainly threatened, including the vice president.
I think it would be interesting to compare society at the time Reagan was shot to society today when Trump was shot. Just what do comparison of how we react and how we reacted back then? Because you remember, like Reagan, he told the doctors, "Oh, we're all Republic." The doctor said, "We're all Republicans today." Well, today would that fly?
Actually, Reagan joked quite a bit when he was
Yeah. Right,
He joked about to his wife and to the doctors. He joked a lot about
right.
when he
And
was in the hospital.
there's a movie about that time, how serious it was with continuation of government. There was so many questions about who's in charge.
Didn't they rewrite the law on the continuation?
Oh,
Either
no, I'm
Kennedy
talking about what actually happened at that time,
oh,
because the communication between departments was haywire. Yeah.
well, automatically the vice president is in charge when the president's incapacitated.
Yeah, that's the rule, but I don't think they were able to locate the vice president right away, and then who's making decisions. There's a movie about that.
Who was his vice president? I can't remember who was vice president.
Johnson, wasn't it? No.
Who?
Sorry. So that was
Reagan,
Okay, sorry.
Reagan Bush.
Uh,
It was Bush.
Oh, was the elder Bush's vice? Maybe he was. Maybe Bush was his VP.
Yeah, I think it was.
I have a terrible memory for who's and who in politics or in general. Who's who. But yeah, might have been. I think you're right. I think it was the elder Bush.
so, as part of the hint at the conspiracy thinking, it appeared to me, and maybe it's just me, that Trump tried to milk it as a photo op, with this fist raising a bit too quickly.
Oh yeah, the fact that he also called out something at the same time as the fist raising, although I don't recall what he called out.
I think had he really been shot, would he have been quite so ready to pump his fist? Or would he be saying, let me get the bleep out of here?
That's a damn good question because I don't get his personality. I mean, I get parts of his personality, but
It just grazed his ear or something.
yeah. Or there were two theories. One is the bullet grazed his ear. The other one is glass shards from the teleprompter grazed his ear. And actually, we don't really. If the bullet went through the teleprompter, it could have been the bullet or could have been a shard of glass. And I don't think they've actually released evidence one way or the other.
And if you
Although
look at
the nature of the wound would probably tell you.
and if you look at the streaks of blood on his cheek, it was clearly multiple fragment, it seems, because those were not parallel streaks of blood on his cheek.
I wouldn't be surprised if it turned out that it was a glass shard that grazed his ear and not the bullet.
Yeah, so the shrapnel.
Right.
But he would have heard it going past his ear because if it went through the teleprompter. First of all, they know if the teleprompter was hit. I think it was, because they said there was glass shards from the teleprompter. But it's more likely that he got hit by the shards than by the bullet.
And in fact, nobody moved after the first two shots. It was after the third shot that he finally said he felt something, and his hand went to his ear.
Yeah.
So the first two pops, they were too sudden. They didn't know what was happening and what to do.
They went off very rapidly, didn't they?
Yeah, it was pretty quick.
Yeah, if there wasn't less than a second, the reaction time is closer to a half a second or a third of a second.
So you see, we're going through a process of sense making with the limited information that
they'll
we
be
have.
able to tell by the nature of the wound. They'll be able
Yeah.
to tell if it was a glass
The
shard
investigators
or a bullet.
will
They'll
have it
be
all.
very different wounds.
Yeah, they'll have the evidence and they'll reconstruct the events.
And if they pull the wound, if they pull the bullet out of the lady who died, they'll test it for DNA fragments. Or
Sure. But now, why do we do this? Is this a game for us?
We're scientists and we want to get to the ground truth and not speculation. We want to know how do you process, what's the evidence that you can look for and how would you use the evidence to resolve the competing theories?
Right. So we have a tendency to dig into the scientific parts and try to make sense of that.
Right. And on balance, I think that's a good thing. But if you're up against somebody with a conspiracy theory, they're not going to be moved.
Right. Yeah, because they're different people manipulating the events for their purposes to gather followers or whatever their purposes are.
Could you imagine the outcry if the guy was a registered Democrat versus a registered?
Oh, it would have been a lot worse.
Could you just?
The fact that he's only 20 is another key. I mean, that the age of the shooter is a big element of trying to get to his motivation. He's not an operative in the sense of a.
And it would be interesting to do comparisons of news reporting to see how it's spun by different news organizations.
Okay, so here's another question. If I were Secret Service, wouldn't that roof be an obvious place to secure?
One would think. I mean, they're supposed to do a whole
Exactly.
in advance planning, that looking at every possibility.
Shit.
So how'd the guy get up there?
Exactly.
Well, he drove his car there. Yeah, I think that's going to come out, is that whether or not the roof was surveilled, whether it was part of their preparations. Because if the evidence of an investigation shows that the Secret Service was remiss, then heads are going to roll. And whoever's in charge of that Secret Service detail.
Well, obviously something was remiss. There's going to be a head that rolls. Secret Service
Yep.
is supposed to, deal with all.
Yeah, yeah, someone should have
find out,
jumped
how
in.
and when he gained access to the roof, and whether or not there was any defense against that. But
Yeah,
I mean, we don't have enough information about.
No, we don't. But you're right about the Secret Service. Their job is to take that bullet for the president. So was there anybody thinking that, ready to jump in and take that bullet?
When Trump got back up from the ground, there was one Secret Service man who put his arm in front of the president's face to catch any bullet that might still be coming.
Okay, I see.
I don't know if you saw that.
I didn't see the whole thing.
And there's a big burly Secret Service guy who basically put his arm in front of the president, the ex-president's face.
Okay, so he's doing his job.
He basically was blocking any further incoming gunfire.
Yep, that's a tough job. I wouldn't want it.
It takes a certain class of character to want to be a policeman or a Secret Service.
What are those where if you do
bodyguard? Bodyguards are a very, even body doubles in movies. That's,
yeah, stunt people.
The dangerous occupation, daredevils and whatnot.
Yeah, some people are born for it.
That's true. There's evil Knievels.
All right. Do we want to switch the topic? Could I share what I was thinking about?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. Share. Okay, and work floaty. So this is what I thought about bringing to today. Share my frustrations. I did that, and underneath, so like when this happens, I start thinking, okay, what about my succession planning? And I'm hesitant to bring up that topic, but I think it's important for me to have a plan because of the critical role I played in thinking through this problem. I don't know if I can make it a little bigger there. So, but I'm not going to do anything about that right now.
Wait.
Yeah, go ahead.
What role? Are you talking about what we're
okay
to do?
No, this is me before we met today. Yeah, I plan to share my frustrations about my production problems. Okay, so I did that. But in my mind, that brings up, how do I plan for my succession if I ever want to get out of this role or teach someone new? Because like there was it was very intense for me, like knowing about the problem, then trying to figure out, I mean, it's emotional to me that something's not working and I'm not sure why. And until the next day, I had more confidence that I have an approach, but yeah, why am I in this kind of role, like, which I've just inherited over time, more responsibility? And so I'm thinking, yeah, so this leads to my thinking about my succession planning, who would take over for me. And yeah, because it's like, do I really have control over my career path, or am I stuck?
You know why it's called a career?
Why?
Why do they? Well, if you look up the etymology, career and careen are really same word.
Interesting.
Careen or career.
Yep. Okay, now I sent a CCC to Sam. Did you get that in Facebook? Or
I have to admit, I did not.
Okay, look in your Facebook Messenger. And you could download it. If we want to look at that, we can. In the meantime, I'll bring up this author.
That's his actual name.
Douglas Squirrel. Yeah.
I
So
thought that was a cutesy, but that's his real name.
that's
Okay.
his real name. And this book I found is called Agile Conversations. So I'll read what it says here. Transform your conversations, transform your culture. Okay. So Agile Conversations brings an updated, practical, step-by-step guide to using the power of conversation to build effective, high-performing teams to achieve truly agile results. To advance your organization's transformation, learn how to have productive conversations that overcome cognitive bias and fear. So is this something useful for like our group, or is this more business oriented?
Sorry, Pop Stack. I found it.
Yeah.
You sent it on the
Yeah.
7th. So I missed it completely the last several days. My apologies.
Okay, why don't, I'll stop for now. Do you want to share the document so we can look at it together?
It would be more appropriate if you did, right?
Okay, if I could find it. Yeah.
Since it's
I'll-
you communicating to me, and I
Yeah, okay, yeah, it's a good idea. Let me do it. Let me bring it up first and then I'll share it.
This is job related, not project, not hobby project. This is a job
Oh,
project.
no, the CCC is me to Sam. Yeah, so let me find it.
Because it's different.
Okay, I prepared this.
Iterative for your career or whether it's just a hobby project.
Yeah, we're talking about just Sam and me, whatever we decide to do together. So let me bring up the PDF here and I'll share that. Okay, we're gonna share. And here's the preview. Okay, so let's read what I wrote here.
Mhm.
So I used the one that you did for Tammy as a model, and this is the same preamble.
Mhm.
Okay, so I'm an IT professional who is interested in making a meaningful contribution to the field of computer science outside of the corporate and academic worlds. Interested in carrying forward ideas of Doug Engelbart and Ted Nelson to decentralized networks outside of corporate constraints. Desire to focus on back-end data structures which can implement the multidimensional rich linking with permanent content addressability, prototyped by Engelbart and Nelson, with full functionality available offline, user control of where data lives and who it is shared with, and possible extensions that enable Ted Nelson's concept of transcopyright. Okay, so with
100%
Sam,
resonating there.
what's that?
100% resonating there.
Oh, good. Okay. For this objective, learn together about current developments in functional programming, immutable data technologies, and decentralized networking by sharing examples of learning materials and practice exercises. Brainstorm ideas for decentralized data structures that would support multiple application interfaces to the data for the purpose of demonstrating the value of specific ideas of Doug Engelbart and Ted Nelson. Good. Nurture a working relationship that helps each of us grow in our career and life paths.
There.
Okay,
Bingo.
good. Bingo, good. Okay, with this commitment, the primary objective of our collaboration is support for each other's personal and professional growth. We will respect each other's time commitments and communication preferences and styles. We will be honest about our availability and ability to work on shared projects. There is no expectation of performance outside of willingness to explore common interests. We will clarify our understanding of the purpose of any collaborative work and desired objectives. This collaboration is not intended to be a contract, and we will not be beholden to constraints imposed by any third party unless contractual agreements are subsequently made.
Mhm.
Okay, so these milestones are research ideas of Doug Engelbart and Ted Nelson, which have not made it into mainstream culture, evaluate the potential benefits of such ideas to various communities, learn and practice such ideas with the purpose of creating learning materials, prototypes, and demonstrations. And any collaborative materials created will have licenses that state the materials are provided as is without an expectation of merchantability or fitness for any particular purpose. This will not change unless other contractual agreements are subsequently made.
Yep.
Until one of us decides we're on separate paths or we agree on specific extensions to the CCC. And where I want to focus exploring features that were designed into Doug Engelbart's NLS augment systems, which gave him versatility and speed as he worked, prototyping such features and technologies of my choice for the purpose of creating demonstration videos about them, and together learning, practicing functional programming, immutable data, and decentralized networking. Together, we're exploring these.
Yep.
Okay. Where you can complement me. Your insight into Doug Engelbart's work can help me choose topics for focusing my personal research. Your recommendations about tools that we can try for enhancing our collaboration processes. Your insights into how Doug Engelbart's ideas can ameliorate specific problems faced by various communities. This includes sharing research about relevant ideas that were tried in the past and analysis of the outcomes, any from your experiences or whatever. Sharing aspects of your personal practices that enable you to pursue your life and career goals. That's an optional thing.
Mhm.
And assisting with introductions to people who may be helpful in our collaboration after we agree that such contacts would be mutually beneficial.
Mhm.
So yeah, we would discuss before we talk to anyone else, or discuss our ideas with other people, because we've thought about some potential people we may want to contact, but it doesn't seem like it's leading anywhere yet, or that we're not ready for that. Yeah, I think we need to talk more among ourselves. Okay, and you'll tell me where you want to store this, yeah, so that's my CCC.
Perfect. I really appreciate this, and I apologize for missing it. I think,
No,
being
it's all right.
COVID and being in brain fog and, having other things to deal with, which I'll discuss with you when we do our one-on-one later on.
Okay, I'm gonna stop.
It's my excuse, but I do have mine, which is partially, I've got the first 2 or 3 sections filled in, but
Okay,
there's a lot here that I can now respond to. So
good.
I really
Mhm.
appreciate this. So you're one of the
Yep.
handful, less than a dozen people have taken the CCC idea seriously, and I appreciate that you have here. Okay.
Yeah, I did it one morning when I was motivated to do it, and I found it was very useful to clarify in my mind what I want to do. It really helped, that clarification and focus.
And it's non-binding, right? It's
Right,
your statement. That's all it is.
right.
So it doesn't require interaction with a lot of people to actually formulate your own thing. So
Yeah, and it's up to you to say, I'll do this, but not this, or whatever. Yeah.
that's right, right, exactly. And by the way, one of those last few points is I'm suggesting we collaborate using GitHub or GitLab.
Yeah.
One of those.
Yeah. I'd like to understand how you would use that. Yeah, just what the mechanism you would do.
Exactly. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that's definitely fodder that I can respond to, and also
Great.
into the one that I've got partially drafted already.
Mhm. Okay.
Awesome. Awesome.
All
By the way,
right.
a number of other names that I want to get you in contact with, because I've been thinking about who else in the Engelbart network. By the way, have you heard the word next now? Have I mentioned the word next now?
Maybe a long time ago. I'm not familiar
There's a
right
fellow
now.
named Bill Dahl who used to work for Doug way back
Uh-huh.
in the 60s or 70s. Okay.
Okay.
Um, and he is kind of like the network builder slash maintainer around Doug, Friends of Doug, FOD. Okay. So there's about 200 people in this network that he calls Next Now.
Cool.
They include uh, all the famous names that you know about from the Engelbart research group, all the people that work for him at SRI, the
Mhm.
people that are, basically his adherents, like Ted Nelson and Alan Kay and
Mhm. Yeah, a
even
bunch of them went to Xerox Park.
Steve
Yeah.
Wozniak is one of them. So there's a bunch of people in this Next Now network,
Cool.
and those are friends of Doug. So 2 of them, Eileen Clegg and Valerie Landau, wrote a
Yeah. Yeah, I got you that book. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and that's the book where I've got a chapter in that particular
Mhm.
book. So they would definitely be very supportive of what you have expressed interest in,
Mhm.
and even Bill himself would be strongly motivated to bring you into that network. That's my
Yeah, I think we have to plan out together when these introductions would be appropriate, what we would tell them is our objective. It's
I
still
know Bill
muddy.
enough that if I say Bill, get Eric in here, he would do it. Okay, so
Cool.
that would not be a problem. In fact,
Yeah.
Eric Kim is part of that network. Peter Yim is part of that network.
Okay, so Eric, yeah, Eugene Eric Kim. Now there's a Gene Kim who does the DevOps. Is that a different person?
Different guy.
Different guy. Yeah, they look the same, but they're
I
different.
like his stuff. I like the way he produces videos, but he's a different guy. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah, I'd like to meet Eugene Eric Kim at some point.
Right.
Yeah,
Anyway,
because
I'm saying that there's a bunch of people. In fact, one of the head guys, one of the big guys at Google now, Vint
Surf.
Vint Cerf, yeah,
Yeah.
that as well.
Sure.
Yeah, basically the guy behind TCP/IP. Okay.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they're still thinking ahead. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to get a sense of where is the direction of people's thinking now that we're entering these new environments where you can really do a lot if you're creative and apply things like clean architecture and immutability.
By the way, do you know the Holo people? The Holo chain?
Holochain, I've met a few of them, yeah, but I'm not in there.
They held a 3-hour meet and greet and discuss in Oakland, California, back when I was still living in the Bay Area. And Jack Park and I attended that. In fact, we drove up there together and we attended. There's a video of it somewhere on the internet. And I remember these guys are old lispers, by the way.
Oh yeah.
So they understand, where I come from when I say, let's do it this way. They have a very fascinating scepter. You remember that name, CEPTR?
No, I don't. I'd have to watch videos and learn
an
it.
agent-based architecture, and they call it scepter.
Okay.
So anyway, those people, need to get roped in. So I was fascinated by Holo for a time. In fact, I gave them a bunch of money for one of their nano servers, but they never heard on that. And then they still have my money. Too bad.
Yeah, those tricky decisions of where to invest. Yeah.
So anyway, number one.
Okay, good.
For creating that CCC.
Sure.
I've been saying for 3 weeks now that I need to respond or write you one. Apologize that I have not done so yet.
I understand your time and you've been busy and everything.
Well, mostly it's the brain fog from having COVID. In fact,
you gotta get over that. Yeah, take your time. There's no urgency. What I would appreciate is if you have some of the videos that have not yet been posted, like the one with Jack Park.
The one from I finally downloaded that one from Barry. So
yeah,
on one of my machines now I get to
that's
like the or something like that.
Yeah, that's the one I'd like to review first before the others. Yep.
All right, I'll do that.
Okay.
I'm so sorry for coming really late.
Hello, Kayla.
Shall we give Kayla some unsolicited criticism?
Sure.
For coming late.
I know. I already know. I showed up late.
I think you'll enjoy watching this video. You'll see how 3 guys process.
Discussion yesterday that said, hey, this would be a good topic to discuss today.
I know. I spent most of the morning trying to plan things, so I apologize.
Hey, no need. This is all and it'd be curious though what your take would be on the first, let's say, hour and 10. I don't know how long we spent on this topic before we went to the other topic, Caleb, which was the shooting. We spent
yeah, the potentially staged. I don't know.
We don't have the facts.
Because the minute I saw that video, I thought Trump's milking this for all it's worth.
He always does that. He milks everything.
Yeah, I know. It's I don't even I shouldn't not pay attention to it, right? I mean, I should pay attention to our leaders. I should pay attention to the people who run the United States. But it's just disgusting to see that.
You got to decide how much time you're going to pay attention to it. Maybe a half hour and then turn it off or something like that. Yeah.
Mine's more like a max 3 minutes and then I'm done.
There you go.
Yep.
Very good.
But I mean, is that being involved? Is that trying to trying to
Okay.
help? Does that help? Just 3 minutes looking
Well,
at
well,
people who are supposedly, in charge of our nation, does that help?
well, it's for your personal decisions, or are you in groups where people talk about this stuff? I don't know. Yeah,
I
it's up
will
to you.
be.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
what do you need to know to participate in that conversation?
I guess I just need to know.
Yeah, so
So if
the
somebody asks my opinion, I suppose,
yeah, I mean, it's
or
personal sense making. Like, how do you make sense of this news? And how much? What's the real message that to tell people?
What of this is actionable?
Yeah,
there you go.
For decades, I've supplied unsolicited constructive criticism on governance models that are high functioning governance models. And except for a short stint in the Bell laboratories, it's gone on deaf ears.
so actually, I have a question for Kayla. Have you ever studied anything about Yiddish dance?
No.
Okay, okay, that's good.
The horror.
Why?
No, because there is a real professional people who do this kind of study, the old types of Yiddish dance and bringing it forward. So I was just curious.
Ah, yeah. 100% of my study in dance has been to Polynesian dance. So,
Cool.
yeah.
So is there like a community for your studies where people share information and history of it?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Uh,
Yeah, because that's a project that I work like on tracing the history of this Russian music, but it's Jewish music from Russia, and there's all kinds of discussions that come up about what the purpose of each dance was, and in the lifestyle of Jews back in Russia. Yeah, so people write PhD theses on that.
yeah, that's awesome.
Hey, Sam, it's a hologram. Green screen. There he is.
Now it's working.
Mhm. Yeah, how do we know a
Hey,
person
Sam.
isn't? Hi, Sam.
Hi, just for 10 minutes.
Yeah, good.
I just would let you know that I'm under the spell of anxiety.
Oh, no.
Anxiety?
Anxiety. So what happened was I have to check into the hospital emergency on Thursday morning because I was like, this nervousness feeling was overtaking me. It's like, okay, I don't know what happened, but I guess I hit my limit. I never have anxiety. I'm not used to it. Obviously, people around me, a lot of them has it, and you get used to it. I don't have any feeling of that.
Mm.
I was just walking on water or something. Unlimited confidence, should I say? But you get me now. I know my limit. Just I have a lot of things happening. Supporting this my usual load of more than twice or three times that my usual, should I say, responsibility versus willing to help, want to help, that kind of thing. And so, like, finally, I have my limit.
Yeah, we all have to be aware of that in ourselves.
So I just hope that I could talk to you guys about it and bring back the confidence I have. So
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
minute,
It's good to vent. Whatever you need to vent now would be good for you.
So my way of thinking about it is that because I have no boundaries, like because I guess since I was 13 years old, I was chanting Buddhist chanting, and we saved the world. Who does it? We go to the hell and help the last person in hell to help the world. So that's what I've been. I want to call it brainwashed. So it's something like that. So it's like, okay. So it's how I brought out no limits. Whatever need help, whoever need help, I can help. I'll do it. And finally, like, okay, Sam, you do have a limit. Okay, good, thank you. But it's miserable. It's like, okay, the last thing I want is taking Prozac. So the doctor gave me something. It's called, let's see here, I can give you the name of the medicine. It's the same medicine they use to treat the allergy, actually. It's called hydroxyzine. HYDROXYZINE. 50 milligram tablets 2 times a day. It made me sleepy, so I slow down my brain. So my wife and my kids have been taking care of me, and like, okay, shut down everything at work. I look at my email, the anxiety come right back.
Do we know what that drug is classified as? What its use is for?
It's for allergy.
For allergy or anxiety?
No, it's for allergy, and then they use it for anxiety because they found that it's useful for anxiety as well.
Okay.
So it's sort of like a pseudo drug for anxiety or something like that.
Okay, so do you find it takes some of the edge off?
It made me sleepy, of course. I can, so when I sleep, when I lay down my bed, it's heaven. Like,
Yeah, it may take some
It's not-
time before you could
it's not-
evaluate it.
you want me to spell the drug again?
No, Sam got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Sam. Yeah, Sam Han.
Yeah.
You're on mute, Sam.
So any question you have for me, I'll be glad to answer so that share with you, like, okay, God, Sam 10 do have a limit.
Mhm.
Yeah,
It's a good thing because I don't know how far it will go.
Yep.
I'm familiar with it because Gail does take it, and she
Is that right?
anxiety. Yeah.
So
As
it's not my turn to experience it. It's like I said before, it's like once you buy the Honda Civic or whatever car that you buy, and all of a sudden, everything, all the cars in the street, you see, oh, how come so many of those same cars that I'm driving? Just minute before that, you don't see that. So when I have my own anxiety attack or whatever you call that, I see so many people around me. Like, oh man, I couldn't believe that.
Can you think of the factors that brought this on? Can you like write it down? This is what was going on.
I know precisely what it is. So basically, because I think I said before, my mother-in-law was in the hospital and the day nursing care for in and out hospital for about 7 months. That's one. One of my employees' mom was really sick with late-stage pancreas cancer, aggressive. She finally passed away a week ago.
Oh my, yeah.
So that, and then of course I have challenges in my work. The profit is down, sales is bad,
Mhm.
and
Right.
I'm dealing with some high pressure.
Oh yeah.
So, and of course, all that thing on top of the other things that's going on around outside world that that you talk about in the news.
Oh yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it would be good if you find someone who can help you learn coping strategies or relaxation, whatever works for you as you go through this.
well, Sam,
Yeah.
you're already very familiar with a lot of those techniques.
I'm expert on that.
Yeah, I know. It's just
The problem
Yeah.
I have is I'm finding someone that can help me to get. So anyway, let me tell you what helping so far is. Collagen is what's it? The supplement that helps, and the other one is helping is tapping. You remember
Yeah.
tapping?
Yes, it's very good.
So tapping is helpful. Yeah, tapping is helpful. Yeah.
Yep, I know about that.
And I'll tell you a funny story. Yes, last Sunday I went out movie with my family and watching Inside Out 2.
Is it
You
good?
haven't watched it yet, you should. I recommend it.
It's a good movie. Cool.
And deal with anxiety now. They deal with anxiety now. So in the middle of the anxiety on steroid at the level, I was so uncomfortable that I really ready to walk out the theater, right?
Mm.
You know what helps the most? That diffuse my anxiety.
What?
I learned it from the woman. It's like when you have anxiety, we eat. Like go and grab my popcorn from my wife. Man, I tell you, that was a good medicine.
Ice cream, right?
Ice cream, that's sugar, but popcorn is not so much, so much. So like, so I just grab her bag of popcorn and I was like, oh, at least I can sit and finish up the movie. So I can share whatever I learned from you, from what my experience is, and hopefully that's useful for you. And if you see anything that's useful, let me know. I do have a lot of experts around me that can help me,
Mhm.
but somehow the universe just want me to go through hell to see the light at the end of the tunnel or something. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think also the universe wants to tell you, you can handle this and go forward. You
So
can.
painful, man. I tell you, so painful. But
It is painful, but you have the capacity to use everything you've learned to help you deal with this going forward.
yeah. My daughter make a comment that, you guys men doesn't have the tolerance. The tolerance on pain is so little in terms of psychology pain, but women
Yeah.
is you're so used to it. It's like, yeah. Now I know. I didn't know that before.
Imagine living like that every day. There's some people that do.
Yeah. I was I guess so happy that I was not able. I just learned it, so it's like, okay, now I got it. How many more days I get to do this? I don't know. Yeah, I'm trying to deal with it the best I can with the company because it's a complex situation, dealing with security, firewalls, dealing with profit, dealing with, structures, dealing with logistics, dealing with, all that stuff, payroll and all that stuff. So it's like, okay, fine. And I went to the big trees and the redwood tree and hugged the big tree. I realized that the big tree doesn't influence anything around it. It's still grow for hundreds of years, so I guess it's okay. I think they should be fine.
And the squirrels running on that tree, they don't care either.
They don't care.
Think about that. But yeah, I think you have to step away from work to see the big picture and then come up with a strategy for one correction, another correction, whatever works.
Well, my strategy would be redirect all the quotation and pricing and selling to all my employees. So it's just split them up because I was carrying about half of the profit, bringing half of the profit for the entire company. So that's a lot of responsibility on me. The good thing is I can afford it. If I don't bring in the half of profit or whatever, but thing is, for me, it's like I hate to lose. Like, it's like I know what to do. I know exactly what to do,
Yeah,
but
delegation, right?
my hand is tied.
Yeah, I mean, the more you could bring other people up to help you by delegating, giving them the responsibility and letting them learn over time, even if they make mistakes, let them make a mistake and learn from it.
Yeah, the way I think about it is that, and that's why I didn't do it, is that, whatever you don't want, don't give it to others people. That's how it's Chinese was taught. Don't give to people that something you don't want. So it's like, okay, for me, if I don't want that, why should I give it to my employees? So it's like, okay, that's a conflict I need to resolve. Like, okay, you're not giving them anything, but you're challenging them, you're bringing up their skill set or whatever you want to call that. It's like, so that the more I deal with, the more I have feel that it's a burden. I'll tell you another funny story. So one of my training that I went through is called Neuro Linguistic Programming Training.
Yep.
So the teacher was going through guided meditation.
Mhm.
So everybody was seeing, guess what? Meadow, the birds singing, the sunshine, was all the wonderful thing. And you open your eye, you see the meadow and all that stuff. That's wonderful, right? For me, I open my eye, I see two big screens in front of me. I'm in my office. I was so happy.
Yep.
That was me. It's like I enjoy working. I enjoy serving people. I enjoy helping people. I enjoy taking care of people. So that's me. And
It's
the problem I
wonderful.
have is that, now I know vacation. Now I know the relaxing. Now I know battle has a significant nature has an important role in it.
Yeah, there's been research on boundary setting. There are some people who have videos about that, like Brene Brown, if you want to look into that.
My family with her, yeah, she deal with
Mhm.
a lot of emotion thing.
Yep. But if people are taking too much of your time, if certain things of how you're setting boundaries with people, yeah,
So I think from my perspective, people don't take out too much of my time, but from my perspective, it's just that I don't have a boundary. That's a problem I have.
but do they stay in your head? Like, are
They
you
stay in my
thinking?
head, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. They stay in my head. That take up my time. That would I agree with that, but they don't actively take up too much of my time. They passively
right.
take up too
So
much
it's
of my
more about you managing your how much time you're thinking about the problems of other people. What, like, is it interfering with your family time or anything like
time. Right.
that?
Yeah. The thing is, I enjoy that. So I feel that, I have the capacity, I have the bandwidth for it. So like
Yeah, if you have the bandwidth, great. Yeah, that you'll.
that's why I say
But
when
could you do it like while you're exercising or do it taking a walk? Just yeah, confine. I don't know. You want to be mindful, but yeah, if it's part of what you do, yeah, I mean, you got to really decide: is it helping me or hurting me? That's what it comes down to. If you, yeah, what really triggered that anxiety is what you got to look at what was that trigger.
so now I know triggers twice when I look at my email. I
Yeah,
go through this email trigger
exactly.
anxiety.
Yeah,
Big
I
time.
found that I have to manage what I expose myself to. Yeah, because it was too easy for me to get swept away into YouTube videos and
Yeah.
my own paths of what I want to watch. Or yeah, during COVID, it was tricky. Yeah, being home all the time, getting into all kinds of old DVDs and old
Right.
sitcoms and trying to like nullify that pain of isolation that
Yeah.
I was going through. Yeah.
What else that triggers me this? I don't get what I wanted.
What do you want?
Yeah, so for example, just like, okay, I want a piece of bread and there's no more bread. I had to go and buy it. Like that triggers it.
Yep.
And somebody challenged like, why do you want that? So when they ask that, I put me like, okay, I gotta explain that. I gotta come up with a reason. So when they challenge me, my anxiety goes up.
Mhm.
I'm keeping track of it. So nervousness, anxiety, anger, embarrassment,
Yep. So
shame.
yeah, it's about how are you responding to the people who trigger you internally? Like, is there a different way to respond? Okay,
Right.
Kayla's signing off. Nice to see you, Kayla.
Well, Sam, I
Yeah.
appreciate you sharing that with
Mhm.
us. It probably took a lot to do that.
Yeah, it took a sense of trust that you.
So I trust you guys. I know it's
Yeah.
gonna be going public. I know it's gonna be there's so what? Like
Yeah.
use the information I got so far. If I can help you with that, go for it. It's nothing to embarrass to talk about. It's something that I feel that if we're dealing with it all the time, so it's like, wow, I couldn't believe that. Wow, this is a pandemic. This is a huge thing, and it's under the rug. People just
Mhm.
sweep it under the rug and just don't talk about it. Like, okay,
Yeah.
hell, let me talk about it. It's like, fine.
Right, but do they recognize the trauma of being home alone and then coming back out? There is a sense of trauma that we all deal with for that.
It's
Yeah.
so paralyzing. It's just like it just frees me, just like miserable, and
Mhm.
like I don't know how to explain it. I was telling someone that if someone says, Sam, I'll take away 4 days of your miserable panic attacks experience in exchange for a house that you own, I say, I'll take it, take the house.
Yeah, panic attacks, I know.
Well, just as a bit of context, we did spend the first hour or so talking about when is it appropriate and not appropriate to deliver unsolicited criticism. That was a topic that a couple of us found interesting yesterday. And then we spent probably 20 or 30 minutes talking about the shooting yesterday. And then the last 20 or 30 minutes before you joined, we were talking about how Eric and I in particular, we're interested in collaborating around Doug Engelbart's ideas and Ted Nelson's ideas.
Thank you. Thanks for the catch up. The way I think about it is whatever universe make you painful is the topic that you want to talk about. That's my way of looking at it. Because if it doesn't bother you, the way that my neurology tell me is that, does it affect your life? If it doesn't affect your life, no, I'm not going to give you the medication just because you think you have the symptoms. Like, because the side effect would give you more painful experience than worth it. So, meaning that I'm not qualified for that. You know, I'm not qualified. I don't have the bandwidth to talk about things that doesn't bother me.
Yeah,
I
the
mean,
medication's a process, so you got to see how you feel over time. And if it's a temporary thing, sometimes you just need a temporary medication, or if it's more permanent, then you'd have to work with someone to find the right medication.
well, the thing about medication is this is what I know for the last 40 years. I've been studying NLP and coaching a lot of people. I know at least more than 5 people that come to me, Sam, the doctor prescribed me Prozac. What should I do?
Never
And
take Prozac. Never.
and 3 months later, I say, thank you. I don't need Prozac. I'm all healed now. Thank you, Sam. You know, this is the experience I have for many, many people that I come to help about Prozac experience. So I know medicine is in my head. I know this. I need to decouple the thought process I have. You know, when I say that I hit my limit, that also is a made up word. Like people shouldn't have a limit. You know, limit is just a made up. It's an excuse. Just like, okay, I can put a label on what do you call that, Barry? Put a label on the things that you don't understand.
Yeah, you got to integrate it with your beliefs, what you grew up with, what you honestly believe, and then you evaluate, okay, is this a short-term thing where I just need this medicine for short term? I could get off of it.
Yeah,
Yeah, if you
great.
do
Yeah,
more
so
of
this
your
is
practices, it'll help you.
There's an infinite amount of things I don't understand. I'm
Mhm.
vexed and perplexed most of the time about most of the stuff that's happening in the universe around me.
right.
Lucky
So
to
what
understand anything.
is religion or what is Jewish belief in panic or stress? You know, that kind of situation. How they deal with it? Is there somewhere in the holy book that has some wisdom in there?
Panic and anxiety in Jewish lore. Gee, Lyric would know that better than I do.
Actually, we have a holiday coming up in August called Tisha B'Av, and
Oh,
that is a date on the Jewish calendar
that
where
will live in infamy.
all kinds of catastrophes have happened to the Jewish people. And how do we deal with that? We read the book of Lamentations, and we fast.
Yeah,
And-
Lamentations. Yeah. Tisha B'Av is to Jews as 9/11 is to Americans. It was the day of the day the temple fell. Well, the twin temples of Mammon and Kronos, time and money, fell. And
Yeah.
the temple of Mars fell in U.S. culture. Well, that's
What
Judaism.
what's the book of Lamentation? Tell me more about it. And what's the content? How's the system thinking? System thinking like me process.
I think it was written by Jeremiah, and he's like pouring out his soul to God. And but there is a hopeful piece of it somewhere in the end. Yeah, after pouring out all his troubles, he does come to a point of hope and faith in God.
I wrote a blog post called Lamentations and Remorse. I wrote it. When did I write it? In 2013.
Mm-hmm. Oh, good.
Although it's really about Aaron Schwartz. It's a special.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I put the link in for this blog post. It's only less than a page of text.
Right. Mm-hmm. Good.
But yeah, it's about Lamentations and Remorse for
right. But Jews don't have all the answers either.
No. Don't even have all the questions.
Right. We keep asking more questions. So
it's easier to find questions than to find answers.
Yeah, it's a personal thing. Each person's got to figure out what works for them.
Yeah.
So if we don't have, so the way I think about this is there's no way to solve all the problem in the world, right? So
You're lucky to find one that you can make a contribution to solving. If you can find one problem and spend some time doing research and make some contribution, that's a win.
If it's in your heart to do that, and
You know,
that's
the
what's
trick is
best.
to find something that you can end up actually making a contribution to solving. Although a lot of what people do is they'll simply write a piece of literature that treats, even if it's just a piece of fiction,
Mhm.
that they'll write a piece of fiction that simply presents a tableau of some issue that we don't yet actually have implemented a solution in our culture.
and what's the best way to deal with something like that?
Write poetry, or poetry or operas or song parodies or science fiction. Just write something up that's a treatment of it that sort of outlines it. Even if the solution is only a heroic figure, a savior figure who solves it in literature.
Okay, Sam says he's mildly triggered. I'm not sure what that's about.
Oh, that's because we're talking about religion. That's
Oh, okay.
He cannot tolerate religion. It drives him up the wall.
It's not about religion. It's about that, people were speaking and then the response comes so quickly that we didn't actually hear what the person was saying.
Okay, what could you tell us specifically what you heard and saw?
I heard Sam, almost say something, and then there was a response immediately without letting Sam finish. And it happens elsewhere as well.
Okay, so Sam Chan, do you remember what that was that you were trying to say?
I was just trying to understand the book of elimination, and I was just asking the question, tell me more about it so it can give me in 3 sentences that I can grab the essence of it or something along that line. And
Oh,
but
you want to understand the Book of Lamentations? Is that you
Yeah,
wanted a
so
summary? Okay, yeah, I told you a summary. That's from my understanding of it. And Barry had his article,
I
so
will read that. Yeah.
okay.
And a good response from Barry also to talk about I call it externalize it, write something up so that you can express yourself.
Yeah, even if it's just poetry. I mean, a lot of poetry is just expressing some frustration about some unsolved issue. It's a way to process stuff.
And these days you could talk to AI and ask, write a poem about this topic for me. Right,
Just put
yeah.
in the name of the issue and it'll just.
Yeah, I've had it write a song for me.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It even gives me chord. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So think of it this way: if I have a problem, I externalize the problem. I make a model out of it. I express it in the way that is said, so I can create something that's sort of like externalize my whatever you want to call it, my thoughts, my model,
Yeah.
my structure, my system thinking. So they externalize it, so it can create something like represent what I'm thinking about, so people can use that. People can.
Well, it's more important for yourself than other people. Something that matters to you, that when you look at it or read it, it gets you reflecting on yourself. Hey, I was here before. Yeah, high anxiety, right? What I was thinking of also is the concept of a Ulysses Pact. Are people familiar with what that is?
No.
Okay, so the myth of Ulysses knowing he's going to be sailing in rough waters and the sirens are going to tempt him. So he told his crew, okay, tie me to the mast and stuff my ears with wax so I can't hear the siren songs. So he's preparing in advance for what he knows is going to be rough waters. And because if he gives into the sirens, he's going to die. Or
Temptation.
Yeah, and if he tries to move, he's probably going to jump in the water and stay with the sirens. So he's preparing in advance, and that's a useful concept for us in life when we know we're going to be facing temptations or situations where may not act in our best interests, to prepare ourselves. And it could be really simple things that we do, like whatever, very simple things that we decide to do to prevent us from acting the wrong way in the future.
Sounds good. Yeah, I wish I know how to prepare for this.
Sometimes we can. Yeah, that this you could not have. Yeah, this is unusual.
Now that I got the first taste of it, I can prepare for the next one can come. But I'm not quite ready yet at all. I just have
Right.
it.
But these come in waves. Like you were surfing and a big wave hit you.
Yeah.
And now you got all splashed and you're trying to recover from that wave.
Right.
As long as the waves don't come all at once.
Right. And whenever I need some help, this is a good thing to have.
Yep. Cake, yep. Until
Run out of bread, eat some cake instead.
let them eat cake.
My bread
Jack.
will make cake from a cake mix. I always have a box of cake mix in case I run out of bread. I can make cake.
Uh-huh. Hi, Josh.
Hi, Josh.
Have you been lurking?
I'm getting anxiety. I'm just getting anxiety listening to the talk of anxiety. I'm like, let's go back to the shooting of Trump.
Okay.
That's my little joke, but yeah, it does give me a little anxiety listening to anxiety.
I think the whole country is going to be anxious for a few days now.
One of my correspondents on Facebook says, wish she had a better aim. But she took a lot of criticism for putting that message in.
Now, jokes like that, should they be allowed or should they be stamped out of existence?
Well, I guess it depends on the role you play in the culture.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a late night comedian and they made a joke like that.
Well, they probably.
I don't think it's a joke.
Yeah,
I don't think it's a joke. That's exactly what my mom said. I think that her exact quote was, "They should have." Oh, wait, let me see what she said. It disturbed the hell out of me all last night. But it was, and I didn't even say anything about it. It was unsolicited.
Yep. This whole situation is waking people up to how we behave civilly toward each other.
Yeah. I just asked. I said I hadn't talked to her in a couple of days, and it's really hot where they are. So I said, checking in on you guys. Are you guys doing good? And she said, just disappointed. Better luck next time. And that's her response about what this was. About half an hour after it happened. So she was just disappointed that the guy didn't.
Now, did she write that on social media?
No, she wrote it as a personal text to me. She would never write that on social media.
Good.
But she,
yeah. But say it's a personal text and say we're living in a 1984 society where the government can monitor all texts and they could look at that and misinterpret it.
Yeah, well, that was her first reaction because it was maybe 30 minutes at the most after it happened. It was just disappointed. Better luck next time.
Yeah, I bet a lot of people thought that.
I just put in the chat the post that I saw a correspondent of mine make on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
People really need to work on their aim. Can't be getting hopes up like that. Yeah. And you can see there's a lot, 122 comments. So some people took issue with the
so there'll be a whole flame war about it before you know it.
Yeah,
it will be a flame war.
There were people who took exception to that remark, and
because didn't Biden say something?
Biden was very empathetic.
Yeah, good. Yeah, people need to realize that.
Well, I'm sure anybody who's surrounded by Secret Service or in public positions where they're under threat appreciate the fact that there are people out there who'll shoot you. Gabby Giffords got shot, and Steve Scalise, and all these people got.
And these people, they just came to a rally, and one of them died. So there's personal risk at attending political events, and with this. But what I brought up earlier is what made this 20-year-old think that it was okay to shoot him. And that's a psychological thing that'll be analyzed and debated about.
Well, I mean, sick temper tyrannus, is that the thing that
we're guessing right now.
Lincoln said that, didn't Lincoln? The guy who shot Lincoln.
Yeah.
Said that sick temper. Thus to all tyrants.
Well, there's a whole field of psychology that'll deal with sociopaths, but are we creating more sociopaths these days? and
I
why.
think we're all sociopaths these days. I think
Yeah.
that's the society that we're living in. Is if you're not a sociopath, what's wrong with you?
Yeah. That,
That's what I get from most of the people I talk to. They're like, "Oh wait, you don't think like that? Oh, what's wrong with you? You think that people like you and aren't trying to scam you every day?" And I'm like, "Yeah, actually, I think people are good." Oh, you're crazy.
yes,
You're
and
not
scamming
depressed,
a
you're
business.
not paying attention.
Yeah, scams and ransomware drive the economy, right? The business model.
They drive a part of it, but like I just looked at Denmark's economy. Their GDP is $470 billion.
Hmm.
And the company Zona Setica, I can't pronounce it properly, but the ones that make Ozempic,
Hmm.
they're worth 675 billion. So a big part of Denmark's economy is giving medicine that they know isn't probably they probably don't give it to their own citizens, but they're happy to sell it to Americans.
Okay. Someone told me there was a South Park cartoon about Ozempic. I gotta find it. Okay.
Yeah, I'm just saying everyone at this moment in time, it feels like everyone's looking out for themselves. And one of the people that is notorious for only looking out for themselves is Donald Trump.
Absolutely.
So I think that's the shift that I want to see in society is when people go, you know what, this is what's good for me, but what's good for everyone else? Let's find a balance.
I think what people need to realize is regardless of who's in the Oval Office, we've got to take control of our lives, our communities, work together wherever we can.
Manage to
Regardless.
survive no matter who's in office, even if it's the worst possible. I mean, look at the number of really bad people who've been in office in the 20th century.
Mhm.
And even today, even 25 years into the new millennium, there's a lot of bad people in office. Yeah, it's commonplace.
Yeah, so how do people survive and then thrive in their communities in bad times and bad politicians?
And sometimes they emigrate, they get the hell out of the Pale of Settlement, they get the hell out of Eastern Europe or whatever it is. That's
Yeah, it varies. Go ahead, Josh.
I was just thinking we were talking about unsolicited advice and that sort of thing. Is there unsolicited needing to know, meaning there's always been bad people in office, but it wasn't so many people knew about it. This is an information age. So we all hear these stories. You know, before it was just stories around the water cooler, and now it's let me send you 27 PDFs on why that story is true. It's a little different way of getting
Well, it's a whole
I don't know.
sense-making process. Yeah, how do you make
watching
sense?
evidence and also watching fake news. So how can you sort out the
Yep.
evidence from the fake news?
And see, the
Yeah, my
CIA
first thought.
Hmm.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
The
Go ahead.
CIA has to create multiple levels of lies that are fed to each story, or whatever they're doing to, yeah, because people knew the real truth. You can't.
Are we ready for transparency at the highest level? Is the topic that I'd love to have. Is could we know all those things and still function, or would it just shut us down?
Well,
Well,
good
there's a
question.
reason they keep things secret because it would foment what's what I'm looking for, uprisings or whatever.
Okay, I
Well,
watched.
I'm just saying on a personal level, like
Yeah.
let's just say right now I'm dealing with diarrhea. I don't need to tell you guys that because that's not something that you need to know, and I am not
Yeah.
just for TMI. But I'm saying that type of TMI, if everyone was Asperger syndrome, could we handle that in society?
I like what Sam Han just wrote. We need eventual transparency.
Well, that's what history is supposed to do. Is eventually history is supposed to sort out the truth from the
Yeah.
propaganda, but I don't know if it does a very good job.
Well, like the JFK evidence was all redacted initially, and now it's coming to light. So people can then delve into their favorite rabbit holes and
Century
debate.
or two after the fact, it's history, but then it's sort of uninteresting because it's not current events.
Right. So, yeah, what's the does that serve a purpose of the government holding secrets for years and then disclosing later when it's like, yeah, the things about Pearl Harbor, about Vietnam.
Oh yeah, there's all.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah,
Yeah, they had to publish what they did at the time, you know. Sam shared a file.
Sam just put in.
Oh, one of the worst parts of the Trump era is this good relationship.
Well, yeah, that's certainly true. There are plenty, we have more evidence of awful people than we had before. I mean, you always knew that they were around. You just didn't know how large the percentage was.
Yeah, but do they
Social network
agree?
shows you how many dumb people there are.
You'll have different opinions on who's awful and who's not awful. You can't really define that unless you're using law or morality. I don't know.
Well, January 6th was a lot of evidence of a fair number of awful people.
But there are conspiracy theories about that too. There's different viewpoints, different views of the evidence. So you're going to run into debate on that. So,
But
Is there,
most of the stuff, and I keep saying it's grim. It's mighty grim. That's about all I can say. Yes, it's grim.
but have you studied the other side's viewpoints on January 6th? Have you really looked at how they believe it's a real conspiracy, how they believe
I
that
won't
it
say
was
study because I'm not a psychologist. So
right? Okay.
I'm not unaware of it. I just don't see the merit of trying to parse it. It just ends up going, I don't get it.
Okay, now what if one of those people had spelled out all their reasoning in a way that you could
It was
read it?
cogent and coherent.
Yeah, well, it may be. So like say it was, and you read it, okay, this does sound logical. It's an alternative viewpoint. So how does that factor into your thinking? Like, should I pay any attention to this alternative viewpoint for this situation? Or is it something I totally dismiss? Or maybe there are pieces of it that I should look into a little more and consider.
You know that people will be, I mean, I've been disgruntled in my life. People can become disgruntled. The question is, do you turn to violence when you're disgruntled? And I think on balance, the answer is turning to violence is probably the worst approach to being disgruntled. I'd rather write a piece of literature about being disgruntled than
Yeah, well, that's what we're seeing here with this 20-year-old.
Yeah.
And then is this going to lead to more violence and riots or
Probably.
who knows? Yeah,
copycat violence. We know that there's this phenomenon of mimetic copycat violence.
oh yeah.
But
So it's a system.
you can't
Yeah.
avoid being disgruntled. The question is, can you write good literature? Make good art in the wake of being disgruntled.
Good, Josh.
the best story I ever heard that shaped my whole life was the story of 1973 in the Bronx when the municipalities moved out because there was just no possibility of policing or the fire department. There was too many buildings that were burning because people were actually burning it down for the insurance money, which left a lot of vacant buildings. And it just created a chaotic system of violence where people were having to police themselves.
There a Fort something Bronx story.
Yeah. I'm just saying, if you ever want to look into that history, there's a lot of, I'm sure there's, at this point, there's a lot of books written on it there. But the story was that they locked a bunch, this is the story, I don't know that it's true, but they locked a bunch of these gang members into a, like a boys and girls club kind of place, facility. And they said, we are not going to get helped by the police. No one's coming to save us. We have to save ourselves. So how are we going to police ourselves in a way that's productive? And they came up with a thing called peace, love, unity, and having fun. So let's battle each other, but let's battle each other through the arts with our music and our dancing. Yeah. And that's what created the hip hop culture at that time. It's not the hip hop culture now.
Right.
But it was based on peace, love, unity. Like, hey, you think you're better than me? You think you can stab me with a knife and your gang is bigger and tougher than my gang? Well, let's see how well you can spin on your head. Like, and by redirecting that energy to a sport, if you will, that was competition, but proved that you were the best because the crowd liked you better. So they would have these, rap competitions and DJ competitions. And that culture is so strong that was over 50 years ago and it's still going. And I'm saying that if we could come up with something that, because you think Trump is better than Biden, yeah, you could do the debates, but that's not fair. You know, if one person's cognition isn't there, is there ways to show it without violent repercussions? And it can be love and unity at the end of the day.
Yeah, how
Like,
about
hey,
a
you're bet.
how
Yeah.
about like a video game, a boxing match, Trump versus Biden? People played the video game instead of
Something to get the angst out is my point. I'm just
yeah,
saying something
because
where you can channel the energy in a way that society can become better as opposed
yeah.
to
So
yeah.
yeah, you got to find a way to get these bottom up ideas and get them out there. Just find what works. That's a
Yeah.
process. Yeah, it's not just one thing. It's I'm sure there'll be artists taking that graphic of Trump and like yeah, take doing their own take on the
Boy,
graphic.
Giuliani with the
Yeah.
mascara bleeding.
Hmm.
I showed the two side by side. Yeah, Fort Apache, the Bronx was turning that episode into a film. 1981. That's a long time ago.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna get going soon. It's been a long session, but thank
okay.
you, everybody.
you.
It's been
Thank
two and a
Okay.
half hours here already.
Yeah. Okay, good to see everybody. Take it easy.
Okay, bye-bye.
Cheers,
Bye.
Eric. No anxiety, Barry? You feeling good?
Well, I won't say no anxiety. I mean, it's more boredom. It's fewer and
Yeah.
fewer things to do in my retirement that I have both the energy and the motivation to do. So I time on my hands and not enough worthwhile things to fill it. But I wouldn't call that anxiety. It's more like boredom.
Yeah. Boredom's good. You can fill it.
It's not the end of the world.
Yeah, I'd rather be bored than be have too much to do and be anxious.
Yeah, that's sort of the opposite problem. But how you doing?
I'm okay, actually. I listened to a little Alan Watts and had a nice Zen conversation last night to calm myself down, and it worked.
There you go. There you go.
So, and I've got enough anxiety around me from everyone that it doesn't, I can't be anxious. Like, even if I wanted to be, it just doesn't work. So,
Well, have a good week then.
all right, Barry, you too. Oh, yeah, and I did end up ordering that little pet chat GPT thing for Aya that's coming tomorrow.
Oh,
It's a
well,
robot dog.
oh, so yeah, you can show it and do a show and tell next weekend with her.
Maybe. Let me see how it goes. Cusella's going on a business trip, and it's going to be a busy week. I don't know how much time we'll have to play with
Oh,
it.
well, if you don't have time, when in a future
Yeah.
episode, if it turns out to be cute, amusing, you
If
should-
it turns out to be really interesting, I'll definitely show and tell because it does have Chat GPT 4 Omni built into it. So I'm curious to see how that.
yeah, and
how
how
that
I
works.
react to it will be interesting.
I'm fascinated to see if it actually is something that's interactive or if it's just scary for her. So we'll
Oh.
find out.
We'll find out.
Yep. Have a good day. Don't be bored. You got tons of things to do, right?
Well, there's not that there's not enough things to do. It's just whether or not I can attend to them and stay engaged and motivated and not just drive fall asleep or become uninterested.
All right. Well, just solve string theory if you could. That would be
Forget that. That is
M theory.
all righty.
I'm
Take care.
joking. Have a good one, Barry. Cheers.
And let Sam know that it's 2 hours and 38 minutes.